Hello and welcome back to Get Great at Maths. I'm here to help you pass your maths exam, so hit that like and subscribe button. We're going to look at keywords, key formulas and how to gain top marks. So let's get ready to get great at maths. This is a question on addition. We have been given three numbers, 6,155 plus 501 plus 649, and if we add these numbers together, we will get 1 mark for answering this question. Now, some students will be able to think of these numbers and just work out the answer in their head, but the majority of children will not be able to work this out in their head, and they need to have a method in able to be able to answer this question. So the key facts are that you need to write down the digits in the squares. So for every digit, so each number will be written in a square. So you'll have 6, 1, 5, 5. Then you need to line the digits up with the correct place value. So you need to make sure that the place values are all in the correct place. And our place values are our thousands. So TH stands for thousands. So in this case, that's the 6. The H stands for hundreds, which is the 1. The T stands for the tens. In this case, it's 50. And the 0 or the O stands for ones, which is the 5 on this first digit here, or this first number. So you need to write the numbers down in the boxes, put all the numbers one below each other, and then you can have a go at adding them up. If you add them up correctly, remember to write your answer in the box to get the mark. Press pause, write down the question, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Well done, guys. Hopefully you've managed to write down these numbers in order, putting them under the right place value headings, and then added them up to come up with your answer. So the first thing you should have done is written down the number 6,155. Underneath, we're going to write the number 501. And the last number is 649. And we have got to add all these numbers up. Remember, this is my ones column, my tens column, my hundreds column, and my thousands column. We always start from the right-hand side when we're adding. Now, I've drawn 2 lines in. You actually only need the top line, but some people prefer to have both lines. It's personal preference whether you have both lines or just the top line. Now, adding up the ones column, I've got 9 plus 1 plus 5. Now, when you're adding these numbers up, look for any number bonds to 10. So we know that 9 plus 1 is 10. Now, this makes it easier to then add on the 5 because 10 plus 5 gives me 15. Now, 15 isn't going to fit in this box here underneath because I've only got 1 digit I can add in here. So the 10 from the 15 gets carried and that gets put up here. And then the 5 goes in here underneath. So this means the 15. Now, some people do like to carry the 1 underneath so it doesn't get confused with the numbers up here. Personally, I'd like to write it up here so when we move on to multiplying 2 two-digit numbers together, then you're using the same method for all scenarios, and you can see that you just add up all these numbers plus the 1 is added in here. If it's at the bottom, sometimes you can forget about it or it get confused when you're multiplying 2-digit numbers together. So we now move on to the tens column adding up. I've got 5 plus 0 plus 4 plus 1. Now we know 4 plus 1 is 5. Again, we've got another number bond. 5 plus 5 is 10. So you should know your number bonds to 10. And again, we've got to carry the 1. So the 1 gets carried over here, and then the 0 for the 10 gets put here. So this is the number 10. Here I had the number 15. I'm now going to add up my hundreds. So I've got 1 plus 5 plus 6 plus 1. Now here we don't have a number bond to 10, but we could know that 5 plus 1 is 6, and 6 plus 6 is 12, or double 6 is 12, plus the 1 gives me 13. So again, I'm going to carry my 1 and put the 3 underneath. So here is my 13. Now I've got 6 plus 1. 6 plus 1 is 7. So my answer is 7,305. And remember to write your answer in the box. Now you can use commas, which split up the number. So after your thousands, you could put a comma in just to split the number up, or just leave a space. This exam question has put a comma in there, so I've just followed the same system as what the exam paper has used, put in a comma. It is not necessary to put a comma these days. You can just have a gap, so it could be 7,000 or 7 gap 305. It is exactly the same. And if you wrote that in the answer box, you would get 1 mark for getting this answer. Give yourself a big tick if you had a really good go at doing that and you got it correct. So well done, guys. Great work. The mark scheme on this question shows the answer is 7,305. 1M means 1 mark, so you can see clearly where the answer is awarded on this question. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on multiplication. Now in this question we have got two numbers to multiply, 0 times 989. Now you might think that the second number is quite large and is going to be very difficult to do. And this is worth 1 mark, but there are some simple things to help us answer this question without getting too worried about the answer. So your key facts are that you should know all your times table up to 12 times 12. So you'd be expected to know all of those off the top of your head. If you've got 1 times any number, that means you get the same number. For example, 1 times 6 is 6 because you have got 1 lot of 6. So whatever you're multiplying by tells us how many lots of that number you have got. So if it's 1 lot, you just have that number and it is literally that number. And this catches students out because sometimes if it is 1 times a number, you think it's too easy and we get confused as to what the answer is. So this just means 1 lot of the number. So it is literally the number that you've been given. If you have 0 times a number, if you've got to multiply a number by 0, you have got nothing, and then it doesn't matter how many lots of nothing you have still got nothing. So when you have 0 times a number, the answer is always 0. So have a look at this question here. Using these facts over here, see if you can work out what the answer is going to be to 0 times 989. And write your answer down in the box provided to get your mark. So well done. Hopefully you're all saying and shouting out at the computer screen the answer is 0 for 1 mark. Don't overcomplicate the question. Remember, 0 times any number is always 0 because you've got nothing, and it doesn't matter how many lots of nothing you have still got nothing if you started with nothing. So the answer is 0. Remember to write the answer in the box. Give yourself a big tick if you got the answer correct, and well done. It is a tricky question and a lot of students get confused between these two facts here, what 1 times a number is and 0 times a number. Make sure you know those two answers. The mark scheme on this question shows the answer is 0 and 1M means 1 mark. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is an addition question where you have got a missing value. I'm going to show you how to approach this to be able to work out what the missing value is fairly straightforwardly. As long as you know the method, you can't go wrong. This is worth 1 mark in the exam and you'll need to remember to write your answer in the box to be able to get this 1 mark for the exam. So your key facts are that you've got pairs of inverses. So the inverse is the opposite function that you have to do to something in order to be able to get rid of that function. So you need to know that the opposite of adding is subtracting. You need to know the opposite of subtracting is adding. You need to know the opposite of multiplying is dividing. And you need to know the opposite of dividing is multiplying. Once you've decided which one of these facts you're going to be using, you then need to line up your place value. So you've got your thousands, your hundreds, your tens and your ones all lined up, and then you can do the opposite of the function in order to be able to get rid of it. Now in this question here, we've got 10 plus something is equal to 302. So you should spot that we have got a plus in the middle, but this plus here is referring to the value in this box, not this value here at the front, and we need to get rid of this value here at the front. Now if it has got no sign in front of it, we always take it to be positive. So if there's just the number 10 on its own, this is a positive 10. So because this is the positive, we need to look down here at our list, okay, and we've got to find what is the opposite of the plus. So the one which is the opposite of the plus is this top one here. So the opposite of plus is subtract. Think about that, okay. Think about lining up your place value. Write down the question on the lines in here, on the squares, remembering to put each digit in an individual square so your work is nice and clear and it's easy to see what is going on. So use the squares on the paper and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Well done. Hopefully you've managed to have a go at working out the answer that's going to be in the box by doing the opposite to plus, and the opposite to plus is subtract. So we're going to be taking 10 from both sides. So if I take 10 from the left-hand side, I'm just left with the value in the box. And if I take 10 from this number here, okay, it will give me my answer. So I'm going to start off with 302, and then I'm going to take away 10. So to be able to do this, I have lined up my ones, I've lined up my tens, and my hundreds is on its own. So I'm going to subtract the values. So I'm going to do 2 take away 0. Now 2 take away nothing is just 2, so we just write the number 2 underneath. Now I move to my tens column, so I've got 0 take away 1. Now if I've got nothing and I take 1 from it, I can't do it. So we have to borrow from the 3, which means we cross out this 3 here, and I'm going to make it into a 2. So I take 1 from the 3, and that means I can borrow a 10 into here to make this number here 10. So I've now got the digit 10 take away 1. Now 10 take away 1 is 9, so this number goes in here. And then I'm left with this 2, take away nothing that's written underneath, which is just going to leave me with 2. So your answer is 292. Remember to write this in the box. Now some people prefer to do adding rather than subtracting. So you could have thought, what number do I add to 10 to make 302? Now if you add 10 to 292, 290 plus 10 gives me the 300, then add on the 2 gives me the 302. Is an alternative way of doing it, about thinking of what you would add on to the 10 to make 302. Or you could do 302 take away 10 to give you 292 for your 1 mark. Either way, it gives you the correct answer. As long as you can work out how to get the answer in the box, it doesn't matter the method that you use, because it is only worth 1 mark. And your personal preference is up to you which way you find it easier to work out the answer. If you prefer a method, then use this subtraction method here, looking at the opposite pairs, remembering to line your values up. Okay, this is your method. Or you can use the number line and think about what you add to 10 to make to 302. The mark scheme on this question shows the answer is 292. 1M means 1 mark. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on using short division. The key facts that you need to be able to answer this 1 mark question are that divide by 2 means half, and a lot of students and children will be able to look at this number and just halve it to get the answer for 1 mark. That's how you do the question really quickly. Other people will look at that number and won't know how to halve it very easily, so the easiest method to use, which will always work, is using the bus stop method to divide. So if you're unsure on how to do something, if you use the bus stop method, that will always help you when you come to divide. And if you write each of the digits in each box, it makes it nice and clear and easy to see you're working. So when we're looking at dividing, we're going to use the bus stop method. Okay, some people, as I said, will be able to just halve the values. Whichever method you want to try, use the bus step, have a go at halving, or use both methods and check that you get the right answer. Remember to write your answer in the box and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer once you think you've got your answer. Well done guys, hopefully you've managed to have a go at dividing. So we're going to use the bus stop method first. So the thing that you are dividing by here, which is the divide by 2, goes at the front of the bus stop. And the number the large number goes underneath the bus stop. Now from here, all I've got to do is say how many times does 2 go into 2, which is just once. Then I say how many times does 2 go into 4, that is twice. 2 into 0 is 0, and 2 into 0 is also 0. The number at the top is my answer that needs to go in the box over here, and this will give you your 1 mark. Remember, there is a comma after your thousands place. So 1, comma, then the 200, so 1,200. You could have thought about this number and halved all the digits to start with. So half of 2 is 1, half of 400 is 200, so that's 1,200 is just by doing it in your head. Some people will be able to do it in their head easily. Other people will need to use a written method to be able to get the answer. As long as you can get the answer in the box, it is personal preference as to which way round you do the question. Remember, always give yourself a tick once you've got the answer correct to show that you have marked your answer and you've understood you've got the answer correct. The mark scheme shows the answer is 1,200. 1M means 1 mark. Make sure you know how to get the correct answer. The method you use is personal preference. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is an addition question where you've got a missing value. Now we've got some number plus 70 has got to give me 485. And this is going to be worth 1 mark. So you've got to work out what do you need to add to 70 to get 485. Now some people will be able to look at that and just know what the answer is. But other people will look at it and think, I have no clue how to work this out. So if you need a method and a strategy, these are the key facts to help you. So you've always got an inverse pair. So the opposite of adding is subtracting. So if you've got an addition sum, and you want to get rid of the addition, the opposite is to subtract. The opposite of subtracting is adding. The opposite of multiplying is dividing. And the opposite of dividing is multiplying. The first two come as a pair, and the bottom two here come as a pair. Now when we're going to work out what the opposite is of the sign we've got, we're then going to have to line up our place value to help us either add, subtract, multiply or divide using your thousands, hundreds, tens and ones column. So in this case here we have got a plus 70. So we're going to be looking at the opposite of plus. So if you look down here for the plus, here it is. So the opposite of plus is subtract. So that's a little clue if you're struggling to answer this question. So think you've got to do the opposite, which is subtract. Press pause, have a go at working out the answer, and then press play when you've got an answer. Well done guys, hopefully you've managed to work out the answer. So we're going to do the opposite to plus 70, which is subtract 70. So this is the pair. So if I take 70 from the left hand side, this 70 here disappears. So I've just got to do 485 take away 70. As I said, some people will be able to just do this in their head, looking at the tens column here, looking at the tens column here to work out what their answer is. But if you struggle, write down the digit here, the larger digit, 485 at the top. Write down what you're subtracting from it underneath, and then we just need to subtract the values. So 5 take away 0 is 5. 8 take away 7 is 1. And 4 take away nothing is 4. So your answer is 415. Remember to write it in the box for 1 mark to make sure your answer is nice and clear. As I said earlier, some people have just been able to look at this, say that there are 70 tens here, or 7 tens. We're going to take 7 tens away from the 80 tens I've got here. So 8 take away 7 is just going to give me the 1 in the middle. So the answer is 415. Remember, give yourself a tick if you've got the answer correct. Well done. There are multiple ways to do it. If you struggle, always write it down. Write your answer in column notation here to help you. As I said, as you get better and with more practice, you'll be able to spot the shortcuts without having to write it down in column notation. But if you can't spot the shortcut, always write it down, the long method, to help you get the answer. The mark scheme on this question shows it's 415. 1M means 1 method mark. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on adding fractions, and we've got to add 6.48 plus 8.6. And you need to write your answer in the box provided, and this will give you 1 mark in the exam. Now the key facts you need to be able to answer this question. Now some people will be able to look at this question and know how to do the answer straight away. Other people need a method. So you need to line up where the place values are. So you need to put the decimal point in the same place, the ones in the same place, the tenths and the hundredths. So you've got thousands, tens, hundreds, tens, ones, decimal point, tenths and hundredths. The decimal point must line up. Once you've got them lined up, then you can add up the values. If you do have any gaps, just put a 0 in any of the gaps. Press pause, have a go at writing out the question, putting the decimal point underneath each other, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Well done, guys. So hopefully you've managed to write this question out. So you've got 6.48. Then we write 8.6 underneath. The ones need to line up, the tenths need to line up, and then you've got your hundredths on its own, decimal point lines up. Now in this gap here we need to put a 0. Now we can add the numbers together. So 8 plus 0 is 8. Next we're going to add 4 plus 6, and you should recognise this is a number bond to 10. So 4 plus 6 is 10, and we're going to carry the 1 and put the 0 down next to the 8. Now when you carry for 1, you can carry the 1 up here, or you can carry the 1 below the line down here if you draw an extra line in. Personally, I prefer to put it up here so you can see all your numbers here easily to add up. Some people prefer to add it down below. It doesn't make a difference where you put this value. It's your personal preference. If you do put it up here, when you come to do multiplying 2 digits by 2 digits together, it does make it easier when you're multiplying harder values together when you do the adding later on. So here's the 0 of the 10, so this is the 1 and the 0 to make a 10. The decimal point needs to line up and that needs to go in place here. Then we have got 6 plus 8 plus 1. So you need to add those digits together to give you the number 15. You can use your fingers to help you count if you need to, or you can use the fact that to get from 8 to 10 you need to add 2 of the 6 on here, then add on the extra 4 to make it up to 6, plus the 1 makes it to 15, and that will give you 15.08 for 1 mark. Give yourself a big tick if you got that correct. Well done. The mark scheme on this question shows the answer is 15.08. 1M means 1 method mark. If you found this video useful, please like, share and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on short division, and in this question it's slightly unusual because normally you have a question and then it puts equals and then you put your answer afterwards, but this time they want the answer and then it's put equals the question. So you've got to do 240 divided by 8. This is for 1 mark, but instead of writing the answer on the right hand side of the question, you've got to write the answer on the left hand side of the question. Now it doesn't matter the order that you do the question in, whether you have the answer first or you have the answer second. Traditionally it is more expected that the answer comes after the question, but it is still exactly the same sum if the answer appears in front of the question. It still works exactly the same, and you need to be able to flip things from one side of the equals to the other side, so it doesn't matter which side of the equals it is on. The key facts to be able to answer this question are that we've got a divide question, which means we need to use the bus stop method. Now some children will be able to look at this question and just know what the answer is. From using their times table facts, they will know the answer to this question. Other children will look at that and have not got a clue how to do it. And if you don't know how to do it, you need a method. And the method is the bus stop method. Remember to write each digit in an individual box so it makes it nice and clear and easy. So use the boxes for each digit. Remember, press pause, have a go at working out the answer, and then press play when you're ready to hear. So we're dividing by 8. Now we're dividing by 8, that means the 8 goes at the front of the bus stop. The 240 goes underneath the bus stop. So I need to say, how many times does 8 go into 2? Now 8 doesn't fit into 2, so we write 0 at the top. I'm then going to cross this 2 out and say how many are left over. So it didn't fit into 2, and there are still 2 there. So whatever number is written here, whatever number you cross out is the number that appears here. So now I'm looking at the number 24. So I'm going to say, how many times does 8 go into 24? Knowing your times table facts, you should know that 8 times 3 is 24, which means 8 goes into 24 3 times. Or 24 divided by 8 is 3. Then I'm looking at 8 into 0, which is 0. Doesn't go in at all. So we've got the answer 0, 3, 0, which is just the number 30. And that's the number you need to write in the box for your final answer. Make sure you always write your answer in the box. And this 0 here at the front, if you wrote it in, it doesn't matter. You could put the 0 or not, but the answer is just 30. The mark scheme on this question shows the answer is 30. 1M means 1 mark. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on short division. We're going to be looking at dividing 840 divided by 5. And you've got to work out the answer and put it in the box here, and this is worth 1 mark. So our facts for division are that we need to use the bus stop method. Now some children will be able to look at this and work it out in their head. But if you do not know how to do that, you need to make sure you have a method to be able to solve any single question. And that method is using the bus stop method. Remember, write each digit in each box so it makes your answer nice and clear so you can see you're working clearly. Press pause, have a go at working out the answer, then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Well done guys, hopefully you've managed to come up with an answer. So we've got the bus stop. And the thing we're dividing by goes at the front of a bus stop. So this is where the 5 goes. Now we've got to divide 5 into 840. So I write the number underneath 840. So I'm going to look at doing this division. So I need to say how many times does 5 fit into 8? So 5 fits into 8 once. And then to get from 5 to 8, we count on 5, 6, 7, 8. That is 3 more. So we cross out the 8. And we write a 3 here. So we're now looking at 5 into the number 34. So how many times does 5 go into 34? Well, you should know that 5 times by 6 is 30. If I did 5 times 7, that gives me 35, and that's too many. I only want 34. So it has to be 5 times 6. So 30 divided by 5 is 6. So it's 6 whole ones. And then there are 4 left over. So from 30 to 34 is 4, so that number gets moved over here, the 4. So now I'm looking at 5 into 40. Now 5 times 8 is 40, so 8 goes on the end, which means your answer is the number that's written at the top, 168, and that's the number you need to write in the box. Make sure you've written your working out nice and neatly, and you've used the boxes to help set your work out. Give yourself a big tick if you got the answer correct. Well done, guys. The mark scheme on this question shows the answers 168. 1M means 1 method mark. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on subtraction. And in this question, we're going to be looking at subtracting 7,306, take away 1,847. This is worth 1 mark in the exam. And the key facts you need to be able to answer this question are that you need to line up the place value by the thousands, the hundreds, the tens and the ones in order to be able to help you subtract these two numbers. Now some students will be able to look at the two numbers and work it out in their head, but that is very unusual for these two large numbers like this to be able to work out the value in your head, but some students can do it. So if you can't do it, you need a method, and the method is to set them up underneath each other, put your subtraction line in, and then work out how to subtract each part separately. Remember, starting on the right hand side. Press pause, write down the question, have a go at working out the answer, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic work. Hopefully you've managed to get yourself an answer. Well done. So you should have written down the first number, which was 7,306. Notice when I've written the number down here, I haven't bothered including the comma because it's just something else to get confused by putting a comma in, because it could end up looking like a 1. So I've just ignored the comma. It's exactly the same number, whether it's got the comma or it doesn't have the comma. Same for the next number, 1,847. Just take the comma out just to make it easier when you're subtracting these numbers. Now we always start from the right hand side. So I've got to look at 6 take away 7. Now, if it helps you, put your fingers up. You've got 6 things up, and then you take away 7, you realise you can't actually take away 7 from 6. It doesn't work. So what we need to do is we need to borrow from the next column, from the tens column. But we've got nothing in the tens column to borrow from. So that means we need to move to the hundreds column. So we're going to borrow from this 3 in the hundreds column. So that means we cross out the 3, take 1 from the 3 and call it a 2. So I've now got a 2 in the hundreds column, which means I can add a 1 to the tens column. So I put a 1 in here. So this is now 10. But I still need to borrow over here, okay, because I need to borrow from this 6 to be able to subtract 6 take away 7. I can't do 6 take away 7, so I need to borrow from here. So now I've got a 10 here. I can cross out my 10. Notice I've crossed out the opposite way this time, just so it goes through the 1 and the 0. It doesn't matter which way you cross out, but if you cross out both the digits, then you know that you've crossed that 1 out and it's not there anymore. So 10 take away 1 is 9, so that's what's left in the tens column. And then I can add a 10 into the ones column. So I've now got the number 16 and the number 7. So I've got 16 take away 7, which is 9. Then I go to my tens column. I've now got 9 take away 4 in the tens column, which is 5. Again, if it helps you to use your fingers, then that's absolutely fine. You can use your fingers. Then we're going to look at the next column. I've got 2 take away 8. I can't do 2 take away 8. So because I can't do 2 take away 8, I need to borrow from the 7. So I'm going to cross out the 7 and I'm going to write a 6. And then I add an extra 10 into this column here. So I've now got 12 take away 8. 12 take away 8 is 4. And then at the end, I've got 6 take away 1, which is 5. So my answer is 5,459. Remember to write your answer in the box. Always use 1 digit for 1 square. Make your work nice and clear and nice and easy, and that will give you the 1 mark. Notice that there was commas in the question, so always write your answer with a comma in, just so you're in the same form as how the question has been given. Give yourself a big tick if you got it correct. Well done. Hopefully you've managed to subtract these 2 numbers accurately. Well done, guys. The mark scheme on this question shows the answer as 5,459 and it is worth 1 mark in the exam. Remember, always put your comma in if there was a comma in the question given. So put the comma after the thousand column to show that that number is the same, 5,459. It is still exactly the same number without the comma, but the mark scheme recommends you put that comma in. If you found this video useful, please like, share and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on multiplying by 10. The question says we've got 1,010 times by 10, and we've got to work out the answer and put it in the box for the 1 mark that the question gives us. Our key facts. We need to line up the place value. So in this case, we need a tens of thousand column, a thousands column, a hundreds column, a tens and a ones column. So make sure you put your digits in the right place. Now when we multiply by 10, what this actually means is that we need to move the digits 1 place to the left. So once we've lined them up and put them in order, all these digits here are going to move 1 place to the left. Okay, so that's towards the left-hand side of your page. Now if I was multiplying by 100, then the digits would move 2 places to the left. If I was multiplying by 1,000, they would move 3 digits to the left. So it depends on how many zeros here as to how many digits you move to the left. Now sometimes Your parents will have been told that when they multiplied by 10, they had to move the decimal point. Now, moving decimal point to the right is exactly the same as moving the digits to the left. And as long as you can get the right answer, it doesn't really matter which way round you think about doing it. Then, once you've got the digits in the right place, you need to put 0 in the gap or gaps, depending on how many gaps you have. Now press pause, write down the value, see if you can move all those digits one place to the left, and then work out what the answer is going to be. Fantastic work, guys. So hopefully you've written down the columns. So the headings, you've got tens of thousands, you've got thousands, you've got hundreds, you've got tens, and you've got ones. Now try and write them in the boxes. It's a little bit tricky to write them in the boxes sometimes when you've got a lot to fit in one little box. So we're going to write down the number 1010. Again, I'm writing this number down without the comma in, and we'll add the comma in later, which always comes after the thousand place. So I've got 1010 in the right columns. Now all these digits have got to move to the left. So all of these digits here are literally just going to shift over one to the left. So that means the 0 goes to the tens column, the 1 goes to the hundreds column, the 0 goes to the thousands column, and the 1 goes to the 10,000s column. So all these digits have shifted over to the left by 1. Then in the gap we've got here, we just add a 0. Now our answer then needs to be written in the box down here. Remember, we put a comma after the thousands column, so this becomes 10,100, and this will give you the 1 mark. Now there are different ways of approaching this question. The main way you're taught at school is to move the digits across to the left. There is a shortcut. If there is no decimal point in the question, and there is no decimal point in this question here, when you multiply by 10, you literally add a 0 on the end to give you the answer. So that's a shortcut, but that only works if there is no decimal point involved in the question. The other way of thinking about it was that the decimal point is after the whole digit, so the 1010. So the decimal point is here, where you can see I've marked it in here. Now, when you multiply by 10, that decimal point goes to the right. So if you move the decimal point to the right by 1, then you get a gap appearing, which is where the 0 has come in here. So if I put it on this number here, the decimal point is after that second 0. The decimal point moves 1 to the right. So then that gives me the answer 10,100. 3 different ways to think about approaching this problem. The main way to do it is to move the digits one place to the left, but there are alternatives to give you the same answer. The mark scheme on this question shows the answer as 10,100. 1M means 1 mark. Make sure you understand what the mark scheme says, and remember to put your comma in to make sure you get the mark for the question. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on short division. Now in this question we have got to divide 560 divided by 7. And we're going to write the answer in the box provided, and this will give you 1 mark in the exam. Now some students will be able to look at this question and just know the answer and write it in the box straight away. But other people will look at that question and not have a clue how to answer it. So if that is the case, you're not sure what to do, then these are the facts that you need to know to be able to answer this question. So we're going to divide by using the bus stop method, and we're going to write each digit in each box. So we're going to make our work nice and clear. So have a go at using the bus stop method, or just look at the question, see if you can work out what the answer is, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Well done guys, hopefully you've managed to divide 560 by 7, either using the bus stop method or in your head. So, using the bus stop method, okay, what we're dividing by goes at the front of the bus stop, and the number 560 goes underneath the bus stop. So we're now going to look at how many times does 7 go into 5. Now 7 doesn't fit into 5, so that's a 0. So we cross out this 5, and I write it up here as a small 5, so it becomes the number 56. Now using your times table facts, you should know that 7 times by 8 is 56, which means 8 is the number that appears at the top, because 7 times 8 is 56, So 56 divided by 7 is 8. Then I've got 7 into 0 is 0. So your answer over here is 80 for 1 mark. Now remember, give yourself a tick if you've got this correct. Now, as I said, some people would have been able to do that in their head. So they would have just looked at the first 2 digits here, 56, and think, okay, 56, it's in the 7 times table, 7 8s are 56, so this is 8 here, the 0 just stays put, so the answer is 80. So some people can do that straight away without having to write down this method. It is personal preference as to which way you do it. But if you're unsure, use the bus stop method because it will always get you the correct answer. The mark scheme on this question shows the answer is 80. 1M means 1 mark. Well done if you got it correct, give yourself a big tick. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on multiplying 3 numbers. So I've got the number 6 times 10 times 11, and this is worth 1 mark in the exam. Remember, always write your answer in the box provided. Now the key facts to help us do this question, we need to know that multiplication is commutative. Now in your SATs exam they won't ever use this word and you won't come across it, but as you go up higher in maths, especially when you go on to do A-level maths, the word commutative does appear, and especially on the further maths course. So you should be familiar with this word commutative. Now what that word commutative means, it means that it doesn't matter the order you multiplied digits in. So it doesn't matter if I did 2 times 4, it's the same as 4 times 2. So if I swap the order of the digits multiplying them, it doesn't matter, you still get the same answer. Now when you're multiplying by 10, there are a couple of ways to deal with this. So you can move the digits 1 place to the left, or you can add a 0 on the end. Both of these two things do exactly the same when there is no decimal point involved. Press pause, have a go at thinking about how we're going to work out this answer, and then write your answer on your bit of paper or on the box provided. Well done guys, hopefully you've managed to come up with an answer and work out how to do 6 times 10 times 11. Now this is without a calculator, and you should know that it doesn't matter the order, so we need to look at the numbers and work out, well, what is the easiest thing to do. I've given you the key facts over here, but multiplying by 10 we move the digits to the one place to the left, or we add a 0. So multiplying by 10 is what we're going to do last. So that means I'm going to multiply my 6 by 11 first. So 6 times 11 is 66. Multiply by 10, add the 0, or move the digits to the left and add the 0, gives me 660 for 1 mark. Give yourself a big tick if you got that answer. Providing you remember to swap the order of these numbers round, it makes it much easier to multiply these digits. If you did it in a different order, you will still get exactly the same answer. It's personal preference as to the order you do, but the order I've just shown you here is the easiest way to get the mark. The mark scheme on this question shows the answer is 660. 1M means 1 mark. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a division question, and in this question you are asked to divide 1080 by 9. Remember, always write your answer in the box provided, and this is worth 1 mark in your exam. Now some children will be able to look at this question and just know what the answer is from using their times table facts and be able to write it in here. But if you look at this and haven't got a clue how to do it, then this is the method of what you need to know. So your key facts are, remember, when you're dividing, you're going to use the bus stop method. And then you're going to write each digit in a box to make it nice and clear to show you're working out. So using the bus stop method, have a go at working out the answer, or just see if you can work out the answer in your head if you can, and get your answer written down. Press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Well done guys, hopefully you've managed to work out the answer to this sum here. So remember, what we're dividing by goes at the front of the division. So we're divided by 9, this goes at the front. What we're dividing into goes underneath this bus stop. So I've got 1080. When you write this number down, remember you don't need to put the comma in. So I'm now going to look at how many times 9 goes into the number 1. Now 9 doesn't fit into 1, so I will put a 0 at the top. Now I'm going to cross this number out here, and this number gets written here because 9 didn't fit into 1, so there was 1 left over, and this 1 makes this next digit the number 10. So now I'm looking at how many times does 9 go into 10, and 9 fits into 10 once, and there is 1 left over. Now I've got the number 18. So now I've got to look at how many times does 9 go into 18. So 9 fits into 18 twice. There are none left over, so I don't need to carry anything this time. And now I'm looking at 9 into 0, which is 0. So I have got the answer at the top, which is 120, which is the number that you need to write in this box here. And this is worth 1 mark. Remember, give yourself a tick if you got the answer correct. Well done. Now, if you are really good at maths and you're good at spotting your times table, you will have looked at this number here at the front, 108. Now 108, you should know, is in the 9 times table. 12 times by 9 is 108. So 12 goes into 108 9 times. And then you've got an extra 0 on the end, so you need to add the extra 0, which gives you 120. Now some children will have been able to spot that it was 120, so 9 went into 108 12 times and add the 0 to give you 120. Some children will spot that really quickly. If your child can't spot that, it doesn't matter. Or if you can't spot it, it doesn't matter. Use this method here because you will always get the right answer. So as long as you can get the correct answer and you get it written in this box here, doesn't matter what method you use, okay, because the question's only worth 1 mark. But well done if you managed to get 120. The mark scheme on this question shows the answer is 120. 1M means 1 mark. Remember, if you like this video, please share it and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on subtraction. Now in this question we've got to do 500,000 take away 5,000. Remember, you write your answer in the box and this is worth 1 mark. Now some students will be able to look at this and work it out very easily in their head. Other people will look at it and think, I don't know how to do it. And if you're struggling to how to answer the question, then the method you need to use is to make sure you line up all your place values with your thousands, your hundreds, your tens, your ones, plus we've got higher columns in this case. And then you're going to put them underneath each other and you're just going to subtract using the column method. So I'm going to do it using the column method first, and then I'm going to talk about how we could have done it without using a written method and how you can do it in your head. Have a think about which method you would use, whether you would do it in your head or whether you would use the column method to work out the answer. Press play when you're ready to hear. Well done guys, hopefully you've managed to get an answer. So using the column method, we write down the number 50,000 without any commas. So don't need to put any commas into it, won't confuse you. Then we put the 5,000 underneath it, making sure every digit lines up. So starting on the right hand side, these zeros at this end here, it should all line up so it ends at the same point here. And then we're going to subtract. So we've got 0 take away 0, nice and easy, is 0. Again, 0 take away 0, nice and easy, 0. 0 take away 0, again, nice and easy, 0. But here's where it gets a bit more problematic. I've got 0 take away 5. So if you've got nothing, you can't take away 5 from nothing. So what we have to do is we have to borrow from the next digit. But I've got a 0, so I've got nothing to borrow from this digit here. So I have got to borrow from the next digit here. So I'm going to cross the 5 out and make it a 4. So I'm going to put a 10 in on this next level here. Now I've got something to borrow from. So I'm going to cross the 10 out and write a 9. And then I can put a 10 in here. So I've now got 10 take away 5, which now becomes 5. So we can do that. Now I've got 9 take away nothing is 9. And 4 take away 0 is 4. So your answer is 495,000. Remember to write your answer in the box and put a comma after your 1,000 value to get your 1 mark. Now this is how you would do it using the written method. But some people will be able to do this easily in their head. And some people will spot there are 3 zeros after this digit and 3 zeros after this number. So we look at the 500 and the 5 at the front. So 500 take away 5. So you could count backwards from 500, okay, if you need to, or you could do 500 take away 5 and just know the answer is 495. Or you could go 500, 499, 498, 497, 496, 495 until we get to 495, and then just add the zeros on at the end. It doesn't matter which method you use because it's only worth 1 mark. You don't have to have a written method if you can just get the answer in your head, as some people will be able to. Remember, always tick your answers and make sure you know that you've got them correct after you've had a go at answering the questions. Well done. The mark scheme on this question shows the answer is 495,000. Note they put a comma in after the thousands. 1M means 1 mark, so well done if you managed to get this correct. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on multiplying a 3-digit number by a 1-digit number. Now, normally you get the question first and then you get the answer box afterwards. So you normally get 596 times 7 equals, and then you write the answer afterwards. But it doesn't matter whether the answer comes first or it comes at the end, it is exactly the same sum. So you just need to know that you have to do 596 times by 7, and then you write your answer in the box here. This is worth 1 mark. Now, to do this question, there are 2 methods. Okay, first method, you can use the column method, which is the traditional method, or you can use the grid method. The preference is yours. It doesn't matter which method you use as long as you get the correct answer. The question is only worth 1 mark. Press pause, choose your method and have a go at working out the answer. Press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Well done, guys. So hopefully you have managed to write down the number. 596 times by 7. So we're going to use the column method to start with. Now when we use the column method, we're going to put what we're multiplying by at the bottom. So we're multiplying by 7. So I'm going to look at 6 times 7. Now you should know your times table facts, and you should know 6 times 7 is 42. So we write the 4 for the 42 here, and the 2 here is a big number. Now some people like to carry the 4 underneath. It doesn't matter whether the 4 is carried underneath or at the top. Personally, I find it easier to carry it at the top, so when we come to do a 2-digit number multiplied by a 2-digit number, it becomes less confusing when we've got to do the adding up later. But it is personal preference where you write this for. Then we're going to look at 9 times by 7. Now again, you should either know the answer to this or you can use your fingers. So if you put your 7th finger down, you should see you have 6 digits to the left and 3 fingers to the right, which means 9 times 7 is 63. Then we need to add on 4 to 63, which will give us 67. So the 60 comes up the top here and the 7 underneath. Again, you could have written that 6 down underneath. It doesn't matter which location it is in. From here, I'm now going to do 5 times 7. 7 times 5 is 35. Add on the 6, and we just write the whole of that answer down below because this is the last thing we're working out. So 7 times 5 was 35, plus 6 takes me to 41. So your answer will be 4,172, which will need to go in this box up here. We could also use the grid method to show you get the same answer. So when we use the grid method, we're going to be multiplying by 7 still, but we're going to split up this number 596 into what the number means. So the 5 is 500, so we'd write 500. The 9 is 9 tens, which means 90, and the 6 is 6 ones. So we split this number 500, 90, and 6 up, and we partition it. So from here, I've got these 3 numbers here, and I'm going to multiply each of these by 7. So you will know that 5 times 7 is 35. There are 2 zeros afterwards, so we've now got to add 2 zeros on the end, or you could have thought of doing 7 times 5, 100, and 7 times 500 is 3,500. So personally, it's easier to do 5 times 7, which is 35, add on 2 zeros. Again, just look at the 9 times the 7 is 63. There's 1 0 at the end, so add on a 0. And then 6 times 7 is 42. The reason we add on the 0 is because we're now multiplying by a 10, and here we are multiplying by 100. So you've got 5 times 7, add on the 100, so 3,500 or 3,500. And 9 times 7 was 63, but we're doing 90 times 7, so we've got to add on the times by 10, which is 630. Once you've got these 3 digits here multiplied, we're going to add them up. So we're going to write them in column notation. So we've got 3,500, 630, and then the last one was 42, and we're going to add these 3 digits I've got here up. So I've got 0 plus 0 plus 2 gives me 2. 0 plus 3 plus 4 gives me 7. 5 plus 6 is 11. So remember, we carry the 1. So we can write that up here and then the 1 underneath. Again, some people like to carry the 1 underneath. It doesn't matter the location of this 1. And then you've got 3 plus 1, which is the 4. Again, we have got exactly the same answer using 2 different methods. It's personal preference as to which method you prefer. The answer is 4,172. As long as you can get the correct answer, the method, it doesn't matter which method you choose to use, as long as you can show your method in the exam. Give yourself a big tick if you got the answer correct. Well done. The mark scheme for this question shows the answer is 4,172. Remember to put a comma after your 1,000 column. 1M means it's worth 1 mark. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. In this question, we're going to be looking at dividing by 10. And the question says 2.12 divided by 10, and you've got to write your answer in the box. This is worth 1 mark. So to be able to divide by 10, we need to know some key facts. And our key facts that we need to line up the place value, and then once we've got our place value titles written down, we're going to move the digits 1 place to the right. Okay, so when we divide by 10, we're going to move the digits to the right by 1 place. Now, the reason we move by 1 place is because there is 1 0 after the 10. If there were 2 zeros after the 10, i.e. 100, we would move the digits 2 places to the right. But because it's only by 10, we're moving 1 digit to the right. You're then going to write each digit in a box to make your answer and working nice and clear. Press pause, have a go at moving the digits 1 place to the right, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Well done, guys. So hopefully you have written down your headings. So we have got 2.12, and remember the decimal point always has to line up. So we've got tens, we've got ones, we've got the decimal point, we've got tenths, hundredths and thousandths. Now when we're divided by 10, the digits are going to move to the right. So I'm going to take each of these digits and I'm going to move them 1 place to the right. The reason they move 1 place to the right is because I'm divided by 10, and the number of zeros after this number here tells me how many times you're moving the digits. So the digits are going to move 1 place over. The decimal point stays in the same place, so the 2 goes to the tenths column, the 1 goes to the hundredths column, the 2 goes to the thousandths column. The decimal point stays in line. Once the decimal point is in line, then we've got a gap here. In any gap, you need to put a 0. So your answer will be 0.212, and this is worth 1 mark in the exam. Now, there is an alternative way of thinking about this, which some of your parents might be more familiar with doing, depending on how old your parents are. And some people were told when they were at school, if you take the decimal point and move the decimal point 1 place to the left, so if you look here, the decimal point was between the 2 and the 1 here. It moves 1 place to the left. This is where the new decimal point is. It is exactly the same, but these days, generally we move the digits 1 place to the right rather than moving the decimal point, but they both do exactly the same thing. It's personal preference which way you think about it. Give yourself a big tick if you got it correct. Well done. The mark scheme on this question shows the answer is 0.212. 1M means 1 method mark. If you found this video useful, please like, share and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on long division, and you have been asked to divide 672 by 21. On the left-hand side, it says you show your method. That means you've got to show your working in order to be able to get the full 2 marks. And remember to write your answer in the box provided here. Now, the key fact you need to be able to answer this is that you're going to be using the bus stop method. The question has already been set out using the bus stop method in the first place. And remember to write each of the numbers in an individual box to make your answer nice and clear. Press pause, have a go at working out the answer, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. So we're going to start off by looking at long division. Now I'm going to show you two methods to answer this question, long division and short division, and both of them will give you exactly the same answer, and it is personal preference as to which one you prefer to do. Now if you go on to do A-level maths, which is a long way in the future, you will have to do long division algebraically. So it is really important that you know how to do it in terms of numbers, so when you have to do it in terms of algebra later on, you can follow the same method for algebra. So long division is really important, especially when we come up to higher level maths. So we're going to start off with the long division. So I've got my 21 into 672. Now most children will look at this number and think, I do not know my 21 times table. So if you're like that and the number that's at the front, you don't know that times table, it's worth writing it down on the right hand side so you've got the times table written down before you start. Now often if you've got a two-digit number at the front, we use long division. If you had a one-digit number at the front, we use short division. As I said, both methods can be used using short division, and I'll show you both methods and you can choose your preference. But long division is a method that is very useful and very valid. So we've got 21 up here, and I'm going to write down my 21 times table. So my second one, 21 times 2, is the same as doubling 21, or 21 plus 21. So 21 plus 20 is 40. 1 plus 1 is 2. So my second one is 42. Add on another 21. So 40 plus 20 is 60. 2 plus 1 is 3. So 63 is my third one. Add on another 21. 60 plus 20 is 80. 3 plus 1 is 4. So I've got 84. Now, if you look at the number we've got, I've got a 6, 7 and 2. So if you look at these digits at the front, I've got all the way up to 8 now. And 8 is higher than these digits that I've got here. So my tens number here is bigger than these. So I'm unlikely to need to go any higher than this. So I'm just going to stop at this point here. If you need to go higher later, then you can just continue this down. So now I'm going to look at 21 into 6. Now 21 doesn't fit into 6. So now with long division, I'm now going to look at 21 into 67. So how many times does 21 fit into 67? We're going to look over on the right hand side over here and decide how many times it goes into 67. So you should spot it comes in 3 times at 63. So this is 1, 2, 3. 3 times is 63. So it fits in 3 times, so that's the number that goes at the top. And then 63 gets written underneath, because 3 times 21 is equal to 63. I'm then going to subtract these. So 7 take away 3 is 4, and 6 take away 6 is nothing. Now I've got to do 21 into 4, but 21 doesn't fit into 4, so I've now got to bring this 2 down here next to the 4 because to make it 42. So the 2 just drops down here next to the 4, and I'm looking at how many times does 21 go into 42. So you can spot on the right hand side, it goes in twice. So 42 is the second one down here. So 42 goes in twice, so that's at the top for 2. And then I write 42 underneath. When I subtract these, the answer is going to be 0. Now if you've used a written method, okay, like I've done here, and made a mistake, you will get 1 mark on this in the exam. To get the full 2 marks, you need to get the answer 32 written in this box here. That will give you 2 marks. So 1 mark will be for showing you're working out using the method. And you can start on the question that's been given here. The reason I haven't used the question here is because I'm showing you 2 methods for long division, and I'm going to show you short division in a second. So I'm just showing the 2 different methods, and this was the question. But in the exam, you literally just write on this question here. So using short division, I start off exactly the same. I now say how many times does 27 go into 6, and it doesn't go in, so we put 0 at the top. But with short division, I cross out this 6 here and I write the little 6 up here. So I've now got 21 into 67, which is what I did here, 21 into 67. Now 21 went into 67, up here, 67, 3 times. But I now need to work out how many more do I need to get from 63 up to 67. So if you count on 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, use your fingers if you need to, you'll find there's 4 left over. So this little 4 that I've carried on up here is the same as this 4 here. I've done 67, take away 63 to give me 4. The 2 that you can see here to make it 42, this 2 has come down here to make it 42. So I'm now looking at 21 into 42. 21 into 42 is 2. So my answer is 32. You can see again here, it goes in exactly, and you need to write your answer in the box here, 32. Now you might think short division is actually much quicker and easier to do than doing the long division, but the advantage of long division is that you've got this 67 take away 63 by writing down the subtraction that you're doing. When you come on to more complicated ones, it just makes it easier to see the subtraction rather than having to do it in your head and count on from 63 to 67. It was 4. You can see 7 take away 3 is 4, 6 take away 6 is 0. It is much easier visually to use long division to do these subtractions to work out what this missing number here 4 is than by using the short division. But both answers will give you exactly the same. It doesn't matter which method you use, and I'm going to show you the mark scheme in a minute. You can see on the mark scheme both methods are allowed on the mark scheme. There is 1 mark for showing you're working out. So this is what it means when it says show your method. So to show your answers, you get 1 mark. And then your second mark here comes from writing the answer in the box correctly. The mark scheme on this question shows there are 2 marks. So 2M means 2 marks. And you could see you could have used either method. So using the long division method here, and you get 1 mark if you made a mistake. So if you made an error here, or using short division down here, and again making an error, it gives you the 1 mark. To get the full 2 marks, you needed to get the answer of 32 using one of these 2 methods. It doesn't matter which one you use, the long division or the short division, as long as you can understand which one gives you the correct answer. If you found this video useful, please like, share and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. In this question, we're going to be looking at adding 2 fractions, 4 over 9 plus 2/3. Remember, you've got to write your answer in the box here, and the question is worth 1 mark in the exam. Now, to be able to add fractions, you need to follow the following steps. So our key facts are that first of all, we need to find the common denominator. Now, this word here, denominator, means the number at the bottom of the fraction. So for this first fraction here, the denominator is 9, and for the second fraction, the denominator is 3. Step 2, we're going to use equivalent fractions. So we need to make these 2 fractions exactly the same denominator. So one of these fractions is going to change, or both of them could change, so the denominators become the same. In this case here, only one of the denominators needs to change, and the numerator consequently will change with it, but it could be both fractions have to change, or just one fraction, depending on the question. Step 3, we're then going to add together the values in the numerator. We cannot add together these values in the numerator, which are the numbers on the top, until the denominator is the same. The denominator in the final answer will be exactly the same as the denominator which was common. Then that answer you've got to convert to a mixed fraction. Then you will need to cancel your fraction if necessary. Press pause, have a think about what your common denominator will be. See if you can work out what the equivalent fraction will be. See if you can add your numerators. Remember, keep the denominator the same in the answer. Convert your answer to a mixed fraction and then cancel if you need to. Press pause, have a go, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic work. Well done, everyone. So to start with, we're going to look at what is the common denominator. So my denominator is 9 and 3. Now, 9 is the larger number, okay? 3 is the smaller number. So 3 cannot be a common denominator because 9 doesn't fit into 3. So we're going to look for the first number here, the 9. Does 3 fit into 9? Yes, it does, because 3 times 3 is 9. So my common denominator is going to be 9. So you have to work out which times table both of these numbers are going to be in. So for 9 times table, we'll go 9, 18, 27. For 3 times table, we'll go 3, 6, 9, 12. The first number, which is the same, which is the lowest common multiple, is 9. So this is the number that's going to go in the denominator. So if I draw out a diagram where I've got 9 strips, okay, 4 over 9 is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 of these shapes. Now I've got to work out 2/3. Now to get 3 to make 9, I've got to multiply 3 by 3. Now if you look at this diagram here, we've got to split it up into thirds. So to split it up into thirds, I'm going to divide this 9 by 3, which gives me 1 section, 2 sections, 3 sections. So 3 squares or rectangles is equal to 1/3. Now I've got 2/3. So 2 of these thirds, 1/3 was 3 squares, 2/3 is another 3 squares, so that's going to be a total of 6 squares in total for my 2/3. So the equivalent fraction to 2/3 is going to be 6 over 9. Now you could do it just by looking at the numbers and think 3 times 3 gives me 9. So I have to multiply the top number by the same. 2 times 3 gives me 6. This gives me an equivalent fraction, so 2/3 is the same as 6 over 9. That's step 2, using equivalent fractions. Step 3 says add the numerators. So that means add the top numbers. So 4 plus 6 is going to give me 10. So I'm just going to add these numbers. And then step 4 says keep the denominator the same. Now if I do it using the diagram, 4 over 9 is 1, 2, 3, 4 of these shapes. Then I'm going to add on 6 over 9. So from here I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've only got 5 in this section here. So I then need to add on an extra 1 to make the 6. So I've got 6 out of 9 coloured in. Now when I added these numbers in total, I got 10. So you count the squares, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 coloured. So there's 10 out of 9. Now each strip has got 9 sections in it. Okay, so the number of whole ones I've got that is coloured in, I have got 1 whole one. Then there is 1 left over. So I can write that as 1 whole one and 1/9. Now without drawing out a diagram, you can do it quite easily. You say, how many times does 9 go into 10? 9 fit into 10 once. Now what do you do from 9 to make 10 is add on 1. So that's this number here, for 1 left over. And the denominator is always the same. So that is the same as 1 whole one and 1/9. You can see by drawing out the picture, it makes it nice and easy to see what fraction it is. So I've got 1 whole one and then 1 out of the 9 remaining squares. Now sometimes the numbers are nice and low like this with a 9, so you can draw it out. Sometimes the numbers are much larger like 63, and it is very difficult to draw that out in the exam to see exactly what is going on. So you need to be able to do it either with a diagram or visualize what is going on and be able to do it without a diagram as well if the numbers are larger. Remember, write your answer in the box provided, okay, to get your full 1 mark for that question, and give yourself a big tick if you got the answer correct. Now in the answer, if you wrote your answer as 10 over 9 or you wrote your answer as 1 and 1/9, either one of these answers would give you the 1 mark in the exam. So you could have left your answer as 10 over 9 to get the full marks on that question, or you could have converted it. Either answer will give you the correct marks. The mark scheme on this question shows the answer is 1 and 1/9 or 10 over 9. So if you'd have written either of those two answers, 1M here means 1 method mark, so you would have got 1 mark for writing either of these two answers. It does say you can accept equivalent mixed numbers, fractions, or equivalent decimal equivalents. So 1.1 recurring is the same as 1 and 1/9 because 1/9 is 0.1 recurring. That means 0.11111111, which is what this digit here means. The 1 whole one is this 1 at the front. Most people would find it easier to work with fractions rather than using the decimals. says do not accept rounded or truncated decimals. So if you just wrote down the answer of 1.1, that is wrong. It has to have the recurring in there to get the correct answer. So truncated just means a shortened version of your answer. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on multiplying a 3-digit number by a 2-digit number. So the number 607 is my 3-digit number and the number 83 is my 2-digit number. And it tells you on the left-hand side you must show your method, which means you must show your working out. How do you get the answer? You can't just write down the answer in this box here. You must show your working in order to get the 2 marks for this question. Now I'm going to show you 2 methods to be able to do this. So we can either use the column method, which is the traditional method, which is what the exam mark scheme want you to use. They want you to use the traditional method in order to get the method mark. But a lot of students find it easier to use the grid method. So I'm going to show you both methods. At GCSE, either method is absolutely fine. But for your SATs, it is really important that you know how to use this traditional method because that's where they're awarding the method marks for on this question here. So have a go at using the column method. See if you can get the answer and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Well done guys, hopefully you've managed to get an answer. So to be able to do this question, I need to multiply the number 607 by 3 initially. So I'm going to take the number 3, which is on the right hand side, and multiply it by the number at the top. So 3 times by 7 is 21. I'm going to carry my 2 up here and then the 1 comes underneath. Next, I'm going to look at 3 times by 0. Now, 3 times by 0 is nothing. Add on 2, goes underneath, which is the 2. Then I've got 3 times by 6, which is 18, which gets written in here. So the number 3 times by 607 is 1,821. So just ignoring that 8 there, that's how we multiply a 1-digit number by a 3-digit number. But we've got to multiply a 2-digit number by this 3-digit number. So I've now got this 8 here that I'm going to be looking at. But this just any 8. This actually means 80. And we know that when we multiply by 10, we add a 0 because all the digits move one place to the left. So because I'm adding a 0 on the end here, there is always a 0 here when I'm multiplying by this 2nd digit here. So I've got an 8. Which means 80, so I've got to put a 0 on the end because I'm multiplying by 10. Now I look at 8 times by each of these 3 digits. So I'm going to start on the right hand side. So 8 times by 7 is 56. So I carry the 5 and the 6 comes underneath. I've then got 8 times by 0, which is 0. Add on the 5, just gives me a 5. And then 8 times by 6, which gives me 48. So I've got the number 48,560. Once we've got these 2 stages here, I need to add together these 2 lines. So I'm going to start on the right hand side when we add. So 1 plus 0 is 1. 2 plus 6 gives me the 8. Then I've got 8 plus 5, which is going to give me 13. So the 1 comes up here and the 3 comes underneath. Then I've got 1 plus 8, which is 9, plus the 1, it gives me 10 something. So 1 plus 1 plus the 8 is 10, so the 1 carries here and the 0 is here. Then I've got a 4 plus a 1, which is 5. So my answer is 50,381. Now you will get 1 method mark for using this method and if you make a mistake. If you get the answer correct, you will get the full 2 marks. Remember to write your answer in the box. Now, a lot of students will find the grid method easier. So the grid method means we split each of the numbers down into separate sections. So I've got the number 607. So this is 600. There are no tens. I'm just going to leave it in so you can see that there is a column for the tens. And there is 7 here on the end. Then the number 83 splits into 80 and 3. From here, I need to multiply 80 by 600. So we do 6 times 8 is 48. And then you've got 1, 2, 3 zeros, so you need to write 3 zeros afterwards. 0 times anything is always going to be 0, so 0 times 80 is 0. But I've got 80 times 7. Now 7 times 8 is 56, add on a 0, gives you 560. Next, we're looking at 600 times by 3. So 3 times 6 is 18. Add on the 2 zeros, gives you 1,800. 3 times 0 is 0. And 3 times 7 is 21. Once we've got these answers here in green, I need to add them all together to get my answer. So if we write them out in a column, it makes it easier to add them up. So I've got all these zeros plus 1 is just going to give me 1. 0 plus 6 plus 2 gives me 8. 5 plus 8 gives me 13, so I carry the 1 and then the 3 comes down here. Then I've got 8 plus 1 plus 1 gives me the 10. And then the 4 plus the 1 gives me 5. So you can see I get exactly the same answer as I got using the other method. As I said, the mark scheme want you to use this column method, the traditional method, to be able to do the long multiplication rather than doing the grid method. Give yourself a tick if you got it correct. Make sure you know how to use this column method in the exam to be able to get your answer correct. The mark scheme on this question shows that the answer is 50,381. Note that there is a comma between the 50 and the 381. This comma, you do not need to write the comma in the exam, it will still be marked correct. If you do write a comma, make sure it is really small so it doesn't look like a 1 in the question, so you've added an extra 1 in there. So just make sure your comma is nice and clear. The marks are 2 marks. You get 1 mark for using the correct method. So it says long multiplication with no more than 1 arithmetic error if the answer is incorrect. It does say you need to use this long method, the formal method of long multiplication. If you don't use the formal method of long multiplication, you probably won't get the answer mark. So make sure that you're using this formal method to get the answer mark in case you make a mistake. If you found this video useful, please like, share and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. In this question, we're going to look at multiplying by 1,000. So we've got to multiply the number 13.05 and we're going to multiply it by 1,000 and we're going to write the answer in the box provided, and this will give you 1 mark in your exam. Now the key facts you need to know are that we need to line up the place values. So you've got tens of thousands, you've got thousands, you've got hundreds, tens, ones, your decimal point, the tenths and the hundredths. So you need to write these out as a heading to start with. When we multiply by 1,000, what it means is we take all the digits in the number and we're going to move them 3 places to the left. Now the reason we move them 3 places to the left is because there are 1, 2, 3 zeros after this 1, which is how many places we move the digits. And then you're going to put zeros in any gaps that are remaining to fill in the missing number. Press pause, have a go at working out the answer, and then press play to hear your answer. Well done guys, hopefully you've managed to come up with an answer. Now some of you will have written out this title, others of you don't need to do that, and some of you will just be able to see what the answer is straight away and write the answer in the box. But if you can't see the answer straight away and write the answer in the box, we need to have a method. So these are our headings, and we're going to line the decimal point up. So the decimal point must go in this point here. So I've got the number 13.05. So there's 1 10, 3 ones, decimal point lines up, there are no tenths and there are 5 hundredths. Once I've got my digits written in the right place, I'm now going to multiply by 1,000. And the digits are going to get bigger when I multiply. So that means all the digits are going to go to the left. So I'm going to take each digit and I'm going to move it 3 places to the left. So the 5 is going to go 1, 2, 3 places. So the 5 is now going to be in the tens column. The 0 is going to go to the 1, 2, 3 for hundreds column. The 3 is going to go 1, 2, 3 to the thousands column. And the 1 is going to go 1, 2, 3, and that's going to go to the tens of thousand column. So this is where my new number appears. Now my decimal point stays in exactly the same point here, so I have got a gap here in the ones column. So in that gap I need to put a 0, which means your answer is now here. We've got 13,050. And remember to write your answer in the box. You can put a comma in after your thousands value, and then you've got the 13,050. Be careful when you put a comma in, you don't write it too big so it doesn't look like a 1, or it's just a nice small little comma, or if you prefer, just leave it out so you've got the number 13,050. It is exactly the same. It doesn't matter whether that comma is there or not if your comma's a little bit large. Apart from moving digits to the left, there is another way we could have done it, and we could have taken the decimal point and we could have taken the decimal point and moved it 1, 2, 3 places to the right. So my decimal point initially was between the 3 and the 0. So here's my decimal point. If I go 1, 2, 3 places to the right, you can see I get exactly the same answer. Some of your parents will probably move the decimal point, but at school you are taught to move the digits. It does exactly the same thing. So as long as you can get to the right answer, your method is absolutely fine. The mark scheme on this question just shows that the answer is 13,050. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on adding fractions. Now we're going to be looking at adding the fraction 2/3 plus 2 1/3. You've got to write the answer in the box provided, and this question is worth 1 mark. Now the key facts you need to be able to answer this question are steps. So you need to first of all find a common denominator. Now the denominator is the number in the bottom. Now in this case our denominator is the same, so we already have a common denominator, which makes our question much easier. You need to use equivalent fractions if you don't have a common denominator, but in this case you won't need to do that. You'll then need to add the whole numbers. So in this case here, there's no whole number in front of the 2/3, but there is a whole number in front of the 1/3. So you're going to add the whole numbers. Then you're going to add the numerators. So these are the numbers at the top. So in this case, are the 2 and the 1. And you're going to keep your denominator the same once you've added your numerators. Then you're going to convert your answer into a mixed fraction if you can, and cancel your answer as well if it is relevant. So press pause, have a go at working out the answer to this question, and press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Well done guys, hopefully you've managed to get yourself an answer. Now sometimes it's easier to draw a little diagram to see what is going on to help with this question. Now if we add together the whole numbers, okay, we've just got 2 whole numbers. So there's no whole number here, plus the 2 whole number, that goes here, 2 whole numbers. Then I'm going to add my numerators. 2 plus 1 gives me 3, and the denominator stays the same because our denominators were already common in the first place. So I have got 3 over 3. Now this over means divide. So this means 3 divided by 3. Now 3 divided by 3 is 1. So that is the same as 2 whole ones add on 1 whole one. Now I write it in this form, it's really easy to see what the answer is. 2 plus 1 is obviously 3, and remember to write that answer in the box. But diagrammatically, we have got 2 whole ones, okay, plus 2/3 plus 1/3. Okay, so I have got 2 whole ones over here, so this is 2 whole ones, plus the 1/3. So the second fraction here is the yellow bars or the gold bars, and the 2/3 is the first bars, 2 sections shaded. Now you can see in total I've got 3 sections here, 3 sections in the middle, 3 sections, and each 3 sections is equivalent to 1 whole one. So I've got 1 whole, 2 wholes, and 3 wholes, which is why my answer is 3. Remember to write it in the box to get your mark for this question. So the easiest way to do this was literally just to add together the numerators. So 2 plus 1 was 3. 3 divided by 3 is the same as 1. So 2 plus 1 gives you 3, which is why your answer is 3. Well done if you managed to get the answer. Great work. The mark scheme on this question shows there is 1 mark. 1M means 1 method mark. It says accept equivalent fractions. So if you wrote something equivalent, for example 6 over 2, because 6 divided by 2 is 3, that is acceptable. But if you wrote 2 and 3 over 3, that is not acceptable. So that answer will not be accepted if you wrote that. So make sure you write your answer nice and clearly just as the number 3. If you found this video useful, please like, share and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. In this question, we're going to be finding a fraction of an amount, and we've got to work out 7/10 of 30. You need to write your answer in the box, and this question is worth 1 mark. Now, there are numerous methods that you can use to be able to answer this question, and I'm just going to show you 3 of them. So key facts, well, a few steps. So the word of means multiply. So this word here in the middle, of, means multiply. So this means 7/10 times by 30. Then you can write the whole number as a fraction. So you can treat this as a fraction. Remember, 30, to keep it the same as a fraction, you have to divide it by 1. So 30 divided by 1 is 30. It stays exactly the same. So putting a magic over 1 keeps this fraction exactly the same, or this value the same. Then we're going to multiply the numerators, which are the numbers at the top, then multiply the denominators, which are the numbers at the bottom, and then you'll need to divide your numerator by your denominator to get your answer. Or another method is to find 1/10 of 30, and then you're going to find 7/10 of 30, and again get your answer. These are the 2 main ways I would look at doing this question, but as I said, I'm going to show you 3 ways. Have a think about it. You choose which method suits you to work out this answer and see if you can get the answer. Press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Well done, guys. Hopefully you've managed to have a good go. So remember, we're going to look at the first method where we're going to use the word of means multiply. So 7/10 times by 30. And we can write this 30 as over 1 because 30 over 1 is the same as 30. Then I'm going to do step 2, which is multiply the numerators. Multiply the numerators, step 3. So we've just done step 2. So 7 times 30. Now 7 times 3 is 21. Add a 0 is 210. And 10 times 1 is just 10. So I've got 210 divided by 10. Now 210 divided by 10 will give me my answer. Remember, you could just take a 0 off the end and you can see the answer will be 21. Or I can do 30/10 times by 7. So I can change the order. So instead of doing the multiply by 7 first and then divide by 10, I can change the order because multiplying and dividing, it doesn't matter the order you do them in, you get the same answer. So 30 divided by 10 will give you 3, and then 3 times 7 will also give me 21. Or the final method, I can work out 1/10 of 30. Now to work out 1/10 of 30, that means I'm going to divide by 10. So that means 30 divided by 10, which is going to give me 3. Now I need to work out 7/10 of 30. So if 1/10 is 3, 7/10 is going to be 3 times 7. Again, is going to give me the answer 21, and you need to write the answer in the box provided. It doesn't matter which method you choose, as long as you can get the right answer. It is only worth 1 mark. You can choose which method suits you. Personally, a lot of people will probably find this method here on the right hand side the easiest to work out 1/10 of it and then work out 7/10. Some people prefer to change it to multiplying fractions or change the order. It depends on your preference. There is no right or wrong way to do it. Mark scheme on this question shows there is 1 mark, 1M, for the answer of 21. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on subtracting with decimals. And we've got the number 8, take away 5.123. And you've got to write your answer in the box here. And this is worth 1 mark in the exam. Now, some children will be able to look at this number and think about what do we add to 0.123 to make 6? And then what do we add from 6 to get to 8? Some people will just be able to look at this question and work out the answer in their head. Other people will look at that and think, I have no clue how to answer this. And this is where we need a method or strategy. So our key facts are we've got to line up the place values. So you've got to have to line up your thousands, hundreds, tens, ones, tenths, hundredths and thousandths, or whatever you've got in your question. you need to add in zeros in any missing gap. So you can see here, this number here, 5.123, has got 1, 2, 3, 4 digits, whereas the number 8 has only got 1 digit. So we need to add in some extra zeros in order to be able to match them up. Remember that 8 is the same as 8.0, and that's also the same as 8.00. I can add as many zeros as I like after the decimal point, and it doesn't change the number, it's still exactly the same. And that's going to be really important. This is where these extra zeros in the missing gaps are going to be added in to give these two numbers exactly the same number of digits. So this 8 has got to have 4 digits, the same as the second number here, 5.123. Press pause, have a go at writing out your question, make sure you've lined up your digits correctly, and then press play when you've got yourself an answer. Fantastic work, guys, well done. So to start with, you should have written 8 as 8.000, because there are 1, 2, 3, 4 digits in this number here, so I need 1, 2, 3, 4 digits in my first number, which is the 8. 5.123 can then be written underneath. Remember to write each digit in a box. Now I've got to start on the right hand side when I subtract, and I've got to start with 0 take away 3. Now I can't do that sum, so what I need to do is borrow from the next one, but I've got nothing to borrow from here, so I now need to go to the next one. Again, I've got nothing to borrow from, so I need to go to the 8. So I'm going to cross out my 8 and borrow one from it and make it a 7, which makes this number here the number 10. So I've borrowed a 10 from this number here and put it into here. So I've now got the number 10. So I can now borrow from this 10 and make this a 9 and put a 10 in here. I could do the same step again. So I'm going to borrow from this 10 here, cross it out, make this a 9 and put a 1 up here. So I've got a 10 again. So I've got 10 take away 3. 10 take away 3 is 7. 9 take away 2 is also 7, and 9 take away 1 is 8. The decimal point goes in the middle, in the same place as it was before. Then I've got 7 take away 5, which is going to give me 2. Remember to write your answer in the box, 2.877 for 1 mark. If you have a tick if you got that correct. So make sure you line everything up nicely. Remember, we've got to borrow from the 8 down this end, cross them out, and keep borrowing and cancelling across until we get down to 10 take away 3. Well done, guys, if you managed to get that answer correct. The mark scheme on this question shows the answer is 2.877. 1M means 1 method mark, so you get 1 mark for getting that answer. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on dividing fractions. So we've got to divide 1/8 divided by 2, and we're going to write the answer in the box provided, and this is worth 1 mark in the exam. Now some people will be able to look at this and just know what the answer is straight away, but the majority of people won't be able to do that, and you need to know a method. So the method we're going to be taking needs to follow these following steps. So our first step, we're going to write the whole number as a fraction. So this number here, this 2, is a whole number. And to make it a fraction, we've got to divide it by 1, because any number divided by 1 will always be the number you started with. So for example, 2 divided by 1 is just 2. 5 divided by 1 is also 5. So whatever number you start with, if you always divide by 1, it will be the same number. Then we're going to write down the first fraction, which is 1/8. We're then going to change this divide sign to a multiply. And then I've got to swap the second fraction upside down. So I had 2 over 1, so I'm going to flip these upside down and it will become 1 over 2. From here, I've now got to multiply my numerators. So multiply the numbers at the top. And then I'm going to multiply the denominators. So I'm going to multiply the numbers at the bottom. Then I'm going to cancel my fraction if it needs cancelling, or just leave it if it doesn't need cancelling. Press pause, have a go at working out the answer, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Well done, guys. Hopefully you've managed to come up with an answer. So, to start with, we're going to write the first step. We're going to write the whole number as a fraction. As I said, 2 divided by 1 is just 2, so 2 over 1 is the same as 2. Now you can write this on the actual question underneath to save you some time in the exam writing out the question again, because you've got to do these questions fairly quickly in order to get them done in the time. So this next step says write down the first fraction, which is 1/8. So you're going to write down 1/8. We're going to change the divide sign to a times, and then you're going to swap this second fraction upside down. So the 1/8 comes first, the divide becomes a multiply, and the 2/1 swaps to become 1/2. Now step 5 says multiply the numerator. So these are the numbers at the top. So 1 times 1 is just 1. And then multiply the denominators for step 6. 8 times 2 is 16. So I've got 1/16, which is your answer. So you need to write it in the box for your mark. Now this fraction doesn't cancel. There is no number that goes into 1 and into 16, so this is in its lowest form. So we just write the answer in the box, 1/16. Remember, your fraction line should be a horizontal line. It shouldn't be going at an angle. So your line here should be a horizontal line with a number at the top above it and the number underneath and below the line. Well done, guys. If you managed to get that correct, give yourself a big tick if you managed to get the answer of 1/16. The mark scheme on this question shows the answer is 1/16. 1M means one method mark. Now it does say accept equivalent fractions or an exact decimal equivalent. So if you'd have written 0.0625, you would get the answer correct. Now most people will find it much easier to work in fractions here than it is to work in the decimals. Do not accept any rounded or truncated decimals. So rounded answer means writing 0.063. Truncated means writing 0.062. So that's the difference between the rounded and truncated. At GCSE, students will need to know the difference between rounded and truncated. For your SATs, you will need to be able to round, but you won't need to truncate. Make sure it is easier to work in fractions, so I'd learn how to work in fractions rather than having to worry about these tricky decimals. If you found this video useful, please like, share and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on adding fractions, and we've got to add 1/2 plus 1/3, and we're going to write the answer in the box here for 1 mark. Now most students will know how to do this really quickly and accurately, and then other people make this common mistake of literally just adding the top 2 numbers together and adding the bottom 2 numbers together, and they get the answer wrong. So to be able to get the answer correct, we need to follow the following steps. So we're going to find the common denominator. So we need to find the lowest number that is in the 2 and the 3 times table. So what is the lowest common multiple of the number 2 and 3? Often it is just these 2 numbers multiplied together will help you find that common denominator. Then you're going to use equivalent fractions to put both of these fractions over the common denominator. Then once they're over a common denominator, you can now add the numerator, which are the numbers at the top. Then the denominator will stay exactly the same. You're then going to convert it to a mixed fraction if it will go into a mixed fraction, and cancel your answer if it cancels. Sometimes you don't need to do these last 2 steps. It depends what happens when you work out the answer. Press pause, have a go at following these steps, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Well done, guys. So hopefully you've managed to get an answer. So to start with, we've got to look for a common denominator. So that means what number is in the 2 times table and in the 3 times table. So the easiest way to find this is actually doing 2 times 3. So 6 is my lowest common denominator, or my lowest common multiple of 2 and 3. So the denominator is going to be 6. Then I've got to work out what fraction is a half equivalent to. So a half out when I've got 6 sections. So if I've got a diagram drawn here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sections, and I want to colour in a half of it. You should be able to see if I draw a line down the middle, 1, 2, 3 sections here would be coloured in. So half of 6 is 3. So a half is equivalent to 3/6. Then I need to find the equivalent fraction for 1/3. So that is splitting this 6 into 3 sections. So I'm going to split it here and I'm going to split it here. So I've got 2 in the first section, 2 in the second section and 2 in the third section. So 1/3 is going to be 2 squared. So 1/2 is equivalent to 3/6, and 1/3 is equivalent to 2/6. Now, as I said, you can use the diagram to see what is going on. You can think about it logically. What is 1/2 of 6, which is 3? What is 1/3 of 6 is 2. Or you can multiply the denominators. So 2 times 3 gives me the number at the bottom. So I've got 6 in the bottom of both these fractions. And then if I take the top left times by the bottom right, 1 times 3 gives me the 3 for the top left. And then if I do the bottom left times the top right, 1 times 2 gives me 2. That gives me the top right. Now this method will always work, but if you use this method, often you will need to cancel down your answer at the end, but it depends on the numbers that have been given. So it's personal preference whether you like to think about the diagram, think about what is going on with each of the fractions separately, or you want to just use the method where you multiply the bottom numbers. Top left times bottom right goes to the top left. Bottom left times top right goes to the top right. It is personal preference as to how you like to remember how to add together two fractions with different denominators. From here, we're now going to add the numerator. So we're at step 3. So 3 plus 2 is 5. Step 4 says keep the denominators the same. So the 6 is going to stay the same. So diagrammatically, that is 3 out of 6. So 3 of them are green. So this is equivalent to the half of the diagram. And 1/3 of this diagram is equivalent to 2 sections. You can see my 3 plus my 2 sections gives me 5 out of 6. So your final answer is 5/6, and that's what you need to write in the box. Now, step 5 says convert to a mixed fraction. The number at the top is smaller than the number in the denominator. So because the number in the top or the numerator is smaller than the number in the denominator, we can't convert it to a mixed fraction because we haven't even gone over the whole number. You can see here, I've only got 5 out of the 6 sections shaded, so it doesn't go over a whole number, so we don't need to do step 5. There is no number that goes into 5 and 6, so we can't cancel this fraction, so our final answer is literally 5/6. We do not need to do step 5 or 6 in this case here. Depends on what numbers you've been given, you may need to do those steps. Well done if you got the answer correct, give yourself a big tick. Fantastic work, well done. The mark scheme on this question shows the answer is 5/6 for 1m. 1m means 1 method mark. Now it does say you're allowed equivalent fractions or exact decimal equivalent. So the exact equivalent to 5/6 is 0.83 recurring, which means 0.833333, and the 3 keeps going on. Now most students will find it much easier to write 5/6 than this decimal equivalent. Now, do not accept rounded or truncated decimals. So rounding means if you wrote this as 0.83, looked at the next 3, round it to make it still stays the same, so it's 0.83. In this case here, truncating does exactly the same as the rounding, so just take off the remainder of the 3's, so your answer is 0.83 again. So it didn't matter whether you rounded or truncated in this question, but it says do not accept that answer. So it's much easier to leave your answer as a fraction than using decimal equivalents, and it will take you significantly longer to do the decimal equivalents than using the fractions. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on subtracting decimals, and we're asked to subtract 26, take away 2.012, and you need to write your answer in the box here for 1 mark. Now the key facts you need to know to be able to answer this question are that we need to line up the place value. So we've got thousands, hundreds, tens, ones, tenths, hundredths and thousandths. We need to add in 0 in any missing gaps, and you need to remember that the number 26 is the same as 26.0, which is also the same as 26.00. So it doesn't matter how many zeros there are after the decimal point, it is exactly the same number. And this first number here, 26, doesn't have any decimal points. You add them in to help add up the same number of decimal places afterwards. So this one has got 1, 2, 3 digits after the decimal point. You need exactly the same on this number here. Now, some people will look at this question and they will just know what the answer is. They'll be able to add on to what do you need to add to 0, 1, 2 to make it to 3, and then go from 3 all the way up to 26, and they can work out the answer in their head. A lot of people won't be able to do that, and you need to know a written method to be able to do it if you can't spot how to do it in your head. Press pause, have a go at working out the answer, whichever method you want to use, whether you can do it in your head or you need to write it down. As long as you can get the right answer, you will get the 1 mark in the exam. Press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Well done, guys. Hopefully you've managed to get yourself an answer. So to start with, you should have written down the number 26, and you should have put 3 digits afterwards, 0, 0, 0, because there are 3 digits here, 0, 1, 2. So 3 digits here, and we write the number underneath with the decimal points lined up. We're now going to subtract. So we always start on the right hand side. So we look at 0, take away 2. Now we can't do nothing, take away 2. It just doesn't work when we do subtraction. So we need to borrow from the next number. But the next number is also 0. So we can't borrow from this number because it is 0. So we then look at the next number. This is also 0. So we can't borrow from here because we need to look at the next number again. So we go to the 6. So we're going to cross the 6 out and take 1 from that 6 to make it a 5. I've now can borrow a 10 to put over here in front of this 0. So I've now got a 10. Now I've got 10, I can cross this 10 out and make it a 9. So I've borrowed from this 10 and I'm going to add a 10 onto this one here. Now I can do the same again. So I'm going to cross out the 10, make this a 9 because I'm borrowing 1 from it, and I'm going to add the 10 into here. So I've now got the number 10. So this is 10 take away 2, which is 8. Then I've got 9 take away 1, which is also 8. 9 take away 0 is 9. The decimal point remains in the same place. 5 take away 2 is 3. And 2 take away nothing is 2. The answer needs to get written in the box here. Give yourself a big tick if you got it correct. Well done if you could manage to subtract this using the written method here. So well done. It is quite tricky, especially when you've got lots of zeros here, how to do it. As I said, some people can just see it in their head and they can work out that if you've got 0.012, to make this one whole one, you need to add on 988, or 988 plus 12 gives me 1,000, which is equivalent to the one whole one. And then from 3 to get to 26 is 23. So some people can just see that in their head and they can work it out in their head. But the majority of children will struggle to do that, and you need to know how to write it down and work it out if you can't do it in your head. The mark scheme on this question just shows there is 1 mark, so 1M means 1 method mark for just getting the correct answer, which is 23.988. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. In this question, we're going to be looking at finding the percentage of an amount. And this question here, we have got to find 15% of 3,200. You need to write your answer in the box provided, and this will give you 1 mark. The key facts you need to know are, first of all, your first step is to find 10%. So that means we have to divide the number that you've been given by 10. So if you divide this number 3,200 by 10, that will find 10%. Remember, when you're dividing by 10, all the digits are going to go one place to the right to make the number smaller. So all the digits are going to move one place to the right, which is also the same as taking a 0 off the end. Next, we need to find 5%. So 10 divided by 2 is 5. So if you've halved the answer you've just worked out, that will give you 5%. Step 3. We're going to add the answer to 10% and 5%. So basically the two answers you got for step 1 and step 2, we're going to add together. And 10 plus 5 gives me 15%. So if you add together the two numbers that you got, that will give you 15%. Press pause, have a go at working through these 3 steps, write your answer in the box and press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Well done, guys. Hopefully you've managed to work out how to do 15% of 3,200. So our first step up here was to divide by 10. So we're going to do 15% of 3,200, first of all by finding 10%, which is dividing 3,200 by 10. So when we divide by 10, all these digits here are going to move one place to the right. So 3,200 is going to become 320, which is the same as taking the 0 off the end. So it becomes in the hundreds instead of being in the thousands column. Now I've got this answer of 320. This is the same as 10%. I've got to work out 5%. So to find 5%, I'm going to halve this number I've just worked out. So this 320 divided by 2, that will tell me 5%. So a half of 300 is 150. A half of 20 is 10. 150 plus 10 is 160. So that's how you can work out half of 320 in your head. Then I've got these two numbers here, 320 plus 160. So if I add 10% plus 5% gives me 15%. So I'm going to add 320 plus 160 together to give me my final answer for 15%. Now when I add these together, okay, I've got a 0 plus a 0. You can write it as column notation if you want to help you add the numbers. Looking at the tens, I've got a 6 plus a 2, which is an 8. And the hundreds, a 1 plus a 3, which is a 4. So my answer is 480. If you find it easier to write it out in column notation, you can just write it out with one number above the other to make your life easier. Remember to write the answer in the box. And give yourself a big tick if you got that correct. So well done. Make sure you follow these 3 steps and you will always be able to work out 15% of a number by following these 3 steps. If you need to find other amounts, always find 10% first. Then if you divide by 10 again, that will find you 1%. And from finding 10% and 1%, you can work out any single value or percentage depending on what the question has asked you to find. The mark scheme shows the answer is 480. 1M means 1 method mark. It does say on the right hand side, do not accept 480%. So it must be just 480. You can't put the percent sign afterwards. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. In this question, we're going to be finding a percentage of an amount. And we've got to find 2% of 3,000. You need to write your answer in the box, and this is going to be worth 1 mark in your exam. Now the key facts to be able to answer this question. You're going to need to follow a few steps. So our first step is that we need to find 10%. Now to find 10% of any number, we need to divide by 10. So we're going to take the number we're working with, which is 3,000 in this case, and we've got to divide it by 10 to be able to find 10% of 3,000. Remember, when you're dividing by 10, all the digits move one place to the right, so they get smaller, or it's the same as taking a 0 off the end. So that's how we find 10%. Step 2, we're now going to find 1%. So to find 1%, the answer we've just worked out in step 1 is we're going to take that answer and we've now got to divide it by 10 again because that will give me 1%. So 1% is the answer we've just worked out divided by 10 again. So following exactly the same steps as what you've done before, moving the digits to the right, and then that will give me what 1% is. Now we need to find 2%. So to find 2%, the answer we've just got, which is 1%, we're then going to multiply that by 2, which is the same as doubling. So we need to double the answer you've just got for step 2, and that will give you the answer, which is 2%. Now once you have found 10% and 1% of any number, you will be able to work out any single percentage. So just think carefully about what percentage you've been asked to find, and then see if you can work it out by finding 10%, 1%, and then breaking it down into a smaller problem to be able to answer the question you've got to do. Press pause, have a go at working out the answer, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic work, guys. So hopefully to start with, you have worked out 10% of 3,000. So to find 10% of 3,000, we have to do 3,000 divided by 10. So all these digits are going to move one place to the right, which is the same as taking a 0 off the end here. So my answer is 300. Now I need to find 1%. So this is step 2. So I'm going to take this 300 and I'm going to divide it by 10 again. So 300 divided by 10 will give me 1%. So again, all the digits are going to move one place to the right, which is the same as taking off a 0 off the end. So 1% is going to be 30. Now I've got 1%, I've got to work out 2%. So the question wants 2%. So to get from 1 to 2, I need to multiply by 2 or double. So basically I just need to double this answer here, 30, to get the final answer. So 2% of 3,000 is going to be 30 times by 2, which is going to be 60. Remember to write your answer in the box for the 1 mark on the exam. Give yourself a big tick if you got this correct. Well done. Great work. The mark scheme on this question shows the answer is 60. 1M means 1 method mark. Bear in mind on the right hand side here it says do not accept 60%. So if you wrote 60% you would not get the mark, but just writing the number 60 does get you a mark. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on long division, and we're going to look at dividing 3066 by 73 using long division, and we're going to write the answer in the box here, and this is worth 2 marks in the exam. Our key facts are that we're going to be using the bus stop method, which is already set out for you in the question. So when you see a question set out like this, you should be thinking this is a long division question. Use the boxes, so write each number in a box as you can see here in the question. And you will find it useful to write down your 73 times table before you start to make it quicker to do the calculations when you're doing the division. This step here is optional. Some people will be able to just think about it in their head and work it out, but most people will find it easier to write this times table down. Press pause, work out the answer, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. So looking at long division, here's my question. I'm dividing 73 into 3066, and I'm going to first of all look down this 73 times table. So I'm starting with the number 73. So when I times 73 by 2, it's the same as doubling or doing 73 plus 73. So 3 plus 3 is 6, 7 plus 7 is 14, so I get 146. Now I need to add on another 73. So the 3 plus the 6 is a 9, 14 plus 7 is 21, so I've got 219. Again, I'm going to add on another 3 to this value here. So 9 plus 3 takes me to 12, 21 plus 7 is 28, add on the extra 10 that I had from the 12 gives me 292. I can keep repeating this, so adding on another 73. So 2 plus 3 gives me the 5, 29 plus 7 is 36, so we can keep adding on 73. Now you've got to look at how far you need to go. So if you look at the digits under here, I've got a 3, I've got a 6 at the start here, but these could be end digits. So because we've got a 3 at the start here, I'm just going to go up to the 365 for now. If I need to add on later, then I can do, but you may not need to go any further. So we're going to look at doing 73 into 3, which doesn't go. So now I've got 73 into 30, so the first 2 numbers. 73 obviously doesn't fit into 30 either, so again we've got another 0 at the top. Now I'm looking at 73 into the first 3 digits, which is 306. So this is where my 73 times table comes in here, useful. You can see I've got 365, which is too big. So 306 is the number I'm looking for. So 292 is the number that is smaller than 306. And this is number 1, 2, 3, 4 on our 73 times table. So that's a 4 at the top. I'm then going to write this number I've just worked out here, 292, underneath. Then I'm going to subtract them. So 6 take away 2 is 4. Now I've got a 0 take away 9, which I can't do. So I could borrow from the 3, make it a 2, and then cross it out and make this a 10. So I've got 10 take away 9, which is going to give me a 1. Or we can just think I've got 30 take away 29. Again, that's also going to give you the 1. So I've got a 1 in here, and then I've got a 0. From here, I now need to look at 73 into this number here. Now 73 will never go into whatever number's here because it's going to be too small. This is a leftover amount number. So we've always got to bring down the next digit, which is a 6 in this case. So I've now got 73 into 146. Now if you look down here for 146, you can see 146 is here, the second value. So this is number 1, number 2. So 73 fits into 146, goes in twice. So this is the number at the top. So I then write 146 underneath because 2 times 73 is 146. So when I subtract these, I end up with 0. If you do not get 0 here, you've made a mistake. So at the end, it should always come down to 0. So you know you've made a mistake if it's not coming down to 0, because the questions on these papers are nice numbers. They will take a little bit of time, but they will generally be nice values. For doing the method, for showing this long division method, you will get 1 mark for the division. The final answer is this number here at the top, the number 42, and that's the number that needs to get written in the box for the second mark. Now, long division is used when we go higher up in maths, so when you do A-level maths, you'll have to do this method algebraically. So it is really important that you know how to do it with numbers, so then we can follow the same system when we do it algebraically later on. Now you can also do this sum by using short division. So it's exactly the same sum, whereas I'm going to do 73 into 3066. So I say 73 into 3 doesn't go. So I'm going to cross this 3 out and make this a 30. Now I'm going to say 73 into 30. Again, it doesn't go, so I'm going to cross out the 30 and write in 30 up here. So now I've got 73 into 306. Exactly the same as what I had before, 73 into 306, and we know that goes in 4 times here for the 292. Now to get from 292 to 306, you need to work out the difference between those two values. So if you count on from 292 or do 306, take away 292, whichever way you choose to do it, you will find you end up with the answer 14. So now I've got the number 146, so 73 into 146 goes twice, so the answer is 42, and make sure you write that number in the box to get the second mark. You can see the two methods are very, very similar. It is easier doing long division to do the subtraction, so we had to do 306 take away 292. By doing it written as long division, it made that subtraction of 14 significantly easier. If you do it up here, if the numbers are smaller, it's nice and easy to work out what's left over, what do you have to add on. But here you had to add on 14 to 292 to get to 306, or do 306 take away 292 in your head, which is quite tricky. So it depends on which method you prefer to use. Both answers give you the correct marks. The mark scheme on this question shows that there are 2 marks for this question. 2M means 2 method marks. You get 1 mark for doing the method. So you can either use the long division like this, or making an error in here, or doing the short division. This method here is by doing repeated subtraction. It is personal preference as to which one you prefer to do. I would always recommend the long division or the short division, whichever you prefer. But any answer that gets you the correct way will work. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on finding a percentage of an amount. We've got to work out 80% of 115. Write your answer in the box, and this is worth 1 mark. The key facts we need to be able to answer this question. First of all, we need to follow the following steps. My first step is that we need to find 10%. So to find 10% of a number, we're going to divide by 10. Remember, when we divide by 10, we take each of the digits and we move them 1 place to the right, or move the decimal place 1 place to the left. It's the same result. Once we have found 10%, we can now work out 80%. So the answer you've just worked out to 10%, if you multiply that answer by 8, that will find 80%, because 10 times 8 gives me 80. So we need to find 80%. So the answer you've just worked out by divided by 10, you're then going to multiply by 8. Next, we then need to multiply the answer that we've got by 8. Now, if you're going to multiply a number by 8, to do this in your head, you can do doubling. So we can double it, and double it. If you double it 3 times, you have multiplied by 8, because 8 is the same as 2 cubed, which means 2 times 2 times 2. So if you double your answer 3 times, you will get the answer. Or you can use the traditional method to multiply your answer by 8. It is personal preference as to which way you prefer to do it. But you can do it in your head by multiplying by 8 by doubling the number 3 times. Press pause, have a go at working out the answer, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Well done, guys. So, first of all, we're going to work out 10% of 115. So to find 10%, we're going to divide by 10, which means that all these digits are going to move one place to the right. Now, this is the ones column. So next to this is a decimal point. So this 1, this 5, is going to move into the decimal point place, so it's going to become 0.5. The 10 will become a 1, and the 100 will become a 10. So this gives me 11.5. I've now got to work out 80%. So 10% is 11.5. So to find 80%, I've got to multiply 10 by 8 to get 80. So I've got to multiply 11.5 by 8. So 11.5 times by 8 will give me 80%. So I've got to multiply 8 by this number. So you can use a traditional method and set it out using the multiplication or the grid method. Or we can use this method over here to do it in our head, which will be the quicker way. So we're going to double it, and double it. So first of all, we've got 11.5, so we're going to double it first. So double 11 is 22, double 0.5 is 1, which gives me 23. Write the number down if it helps you to remember what number you started with. Now I'm going to be doubling 23. So double 23, double 20 is 40, double 3 is 6, so I've got 46. Now I've got to double 46. So again, if you need to write the number down, write it down to help you. So I've got 46, which I'm going to be doubling. So double 40 is 80, double 6 is 12, 80 plus 12 gives you 92. So your answer is 92 for 1 mark. So we've done this all in our head by just using the fact that doubling 3 times is the same as multiplying by 8. You can use a traditional method of writing it out if you prefer. It is personal preference as to which way round you would like to do it, whether you do the grid method or showing the full working out. Well done if you got the answer correct. Give yourself a big tick. Fantastic work. Well done. The mark scheme of this question shows the answer is 92. 1M means 1 mark. On the right hand side it says do not accept 92%. So if you put a percentage after your answer, you cannot get the mark for the question. So please make sure you just write down 92. You do not need to put a percentage in there because the question was finding the percentage, not the answer being a percentage. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on subtracting fractions, and we're going to be looking at subtracting the fraction 2 over 7 take away 1 over 9, and we need to write the answer in the box provided, and this will give you 1 mark in the exam. Now this is very tricky to do without doing any working out, and to be able to do the working out you need to follow the following steps. So first of all we need to find a common denominator. Now our common denominator is a number that is the same in both of these fractions. So at the minute the denominator on the left fraction is 7 and the denominator on the right fraction is 9. But we've got to work out what is the lowest common multiple of 7 and 9. So the lowest number in the 7 times table and in the 9 times table that will fit for both of these numbers. Now the easiest way to do it sometimes is literally just to multiply these two numbers together. So 7 times 9 will give you your lowest common denominator or multiple, which will be your common denominator. Once you've got your common denominator, we need to use equivalent fractions. So we need to work out what is the equivalent fraction. Now sometimes it is easier to draw a diagram out, and a lot of my other videos I have used diagrams to show you how these fractions are adding together or subtracting. But in this case here, when you multiply these numbers together in the denominator, you're going to get a large number, and to draw that diagram out is going to take a long time, and it's going to not be very clear and easy to see how to work out 2 out of 7. So it is not worth drawing a diagram, so you need to know the method to be able to do it without a diagram. Then you're going to subtract the numerators, which are the numbers at the top, and you're going to subtract, keep the denominators the same. So whatever number you get in the denominator, that will remain the same. You'll need to convert your answer to a mixed fraction and then cancel your fraction. Now step 5 and 6 may or may not be suitable for this question. You'll just have to wait until you get there to see if you need to do these last 2 steps. It's only on some questions you will have to do this. Now press pause, follow through the steps, see if you can work out how to get to your final answer, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Well done guys, hopefully you've managed to get an answer to this question. So to start with, we need to find the common denominator. Now the easiest way to find the common denominator is to multiply these two numbers together. So 7 times 9 is going to give you 63. So my denominator is going to be 63, which is quite a large number to draw out. So once you've got your denominator, we've got to work out what is 2/7 the same as a fraction over 63. So we times 7 by 9 to give me 63, which means I need to multiply my 2 by 9. Now 2 times 9 is going to be 18. So 18 over 63 is equivalent to 2 over 7. This second fraction, I've got 1/9, but I've got to write it as a fraction over 63. So what do I do to 9 to get 63? I'm going to multiply it by 7. So if I've multiplied the denominator by 7, I need to multiply the numerator by 7 to make it an equivalent fraction. So 1 times 7 is going to be 7. So 18 over 63 is equivalent to 2 over 7. And 7 over 63 is equivalent to 1 over 9. Now, some people like a method that will work for any case. And the method that will work for any case is to multiply the denominators. So 7 times 9, this is the number that goes at the bottom. Then if you take the top left by the bottom right, so 2 times 9 gives me 18. That gives me the top left. And 7 times 1, so bottom left times top right, it gives me the top right. So you can either use the equivalent fractions or use this strategy where we're going to multiply the bottom numbers, multiply the diagonal on the left, multiply the diagonal on the right, and write your answers at the top. Make sure you get these numbers at the top the right way round, because the 2 times the 9 must come first, otherwise you won't be able to subtract these numbers correctly if you get the numbers at the top the wrong way round. So 18 over 63 is equivalent to 2 over 7. Now, once we've got our equivalent fractions, which is step 2, we're now going to look at subtracting the numerators. So I've got to subtract the numbers at the top. So 18 take away 7. Then step 4 says keep the denominators the same. So the denominator is just going to remain as 63. So 18 take away 7 was 11. The denominator stays the same as 63. And this will be your final answer that needs to get written in the box here. We do not need to convert this answer to a mixed fraction because the numerator is smaller than the denominator. So this is a fraction. It is not over a whole number, so it doesn't need to be converted to a mixed fraction. And there is no number that goes into 11 or 63 to cancel this fraction down, so this is our final answer. Give yourself a big tick if you got the answer correct. Remember, when you're writing fractions, the fraction line here must be horizontal. So you've got 11 over 63. This fraction line in the middle must be a horizontal line to make your answer nice and clear. Well done, guys, if you managed to get the answer correct. Great work. The mark scheme on this question shows the answer is 11 over 63. 1M means one method mark. Now it says you can use equivalent fractions or an exact decimal equivalent. So if you wrote down the answer 0.174603, then you will be correct. Now these digits here, okay, it is much easier to write it in fraction form than using the decimals here. It does say make sure you do not accept any rounded or truncated decimals. So rounding would mean if I was rounding to 1 decimal place, I would get 0.1. Now the 7 would round up to make this a 2, so that's rounding. 0.2 is rounding. Truncating is literally just taking away any zeros after the first number after the decimal point. So anything from the 7 afterwards disappears, so it's 0.1. We've truncated the number. For GCSE, you'll need to know the difference between these two facts here. For your SATs, you will not need to know. You'll need to know how to round, but you won't need to worry about truncating. If you found this video useful, please like, share and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on subtracting fractions. So we have got 2.5 take away 2/3. And you've got to write your answer in the box here to get 1 mark. Now you've got quite a bit of working to do to be able to get the answer to this question. And you'll need to follow the following steps. And our first step will be to find the common denominator of both of these fractions. So that means what is the lowest number that is in the 2 times table and in the 3 times table, or the lowest common multiple of 2 and 3. Often it is just times 2 by 3 together will give you it will give you a common denominator, and often it is the lowest common denominator. Then you're going to use equivalent fractions to work out what a half is equivalent to as over that new number, and what 2/3 is equivalent to over that same denominator. You're then going to subtract the whole numbers. So in this case I've got 2 whole numbers here, take away no whole numbers, so 2 take away nothing will just give you the 2. You're then going to subtract the numerator, so these are the numbers at the top. So subtract these numerators, and then your denominator will remain the same. So keep the denominator the same that you've just worked out. You may need to convert your answer to a mixed fraction depending on what values you've got. And then you may need to cancel your fraction. The last 2 steps are depending on what values you've got. You may or may not need to follow these last 2 steps. Press pause, have a go at working out the answer, and then press play when you've got an answer. Well done, guys. So first of all, we're going to find the common denominator. So in this case, the number that is in the 2 times table and in the 3 times table is the answer to 2 times by 3, which gives you 6. So we've got to work out what is a half as the same as over 6. So if I've got 6 sections here, a half is going to be half of these sections. So if I draw a line down the middle, 1, 2, 3 of these sections is equivalent to 1/2. 2/3, so if I split this into thirds, so I've got it into 2 sections here and another 2 sections. So if I draw a line down here and here, I've got 2 sections, 2 sections, 2 sections. I've got 1, 2, 3 sections. So I want 2/3 of these sections. So this is 1/3 is 2 squares. Another third is another 2 squares. So 2 squares plus 2 squares is equivalent to 4 squares. So this is equivalent to 4 over 6. So I've got 2 and 3 over 6 take away 4 over 6. Now some of you will like to look at the diagram to help you work out what these equivalent fractions are. If you don't like doing that, there's a way to do it without the diagram. So 2 times 3 was 6, which is your denominator. Now a half, what do you do to 2 to get to 6 is multiplied by 3. So you need to multiply the 1 by 3 to make it 3 over 6, which is the same as 1/2. On the right hand side fraction, you've got 3 in the denominator. So 3 times by something is going to give me 6. So 3 times 2 is 6. So then I need to take my numerator, which is 2. 2 times 2 gives me 4. So that gives me 4 over 6. There is another way of doing it, which will work for any single case. So if you struggle, you can just multiply 2 by 3 together to give you the denominator, which is 6. Then multiply the top left by the bottom right. So 1 times 3 gives me 3. And then the bottom left by the top right, 2 times 2 gives me 4. So if you like a method that will work for any case, it's the cuddle and kiss. So multiply the bottom numbers, 2 times 3 gives you 6. Top left and bottom right, and then bottom left and top right. Make sure you get these numbers in the right order. Okay, so the top left and bottom right go on the left hand side, and then the bottom left and top right go on the right hand side. From here, we're going to look at subtracting the whole numbers. Then we're going to subtract the numerator and keep the denominator the same. So for step 3 to 5. So I've got 2 whole ones, take away nothing is just 2 whole ones. Then the numerators, I've got 3, take away 4. Now we're going to go into negative values. So 3 take away 4 is equivalent to -1. You can use a number line if it helps you to take away. So 3 take away 3 is 0. Take away the extra 1 takes you to -1. You can do it by looking at the diagram. So I've got 2 1/2. So 2 whole ones is 2 whole sections, because I've got 6 on each section. So this is 1 whole one, and I've got 2 whole ones. And then I've got 3 out of 6, because 3 out of 6 is equivalent to a half. I'm now going to take away 4 out of 6. So I've got to take off 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see I'm left with 1 whole one and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections. So my answer is going to be 1 whole one and 5 over 6. Now doing it without drawing a diagram out, as I said a minute ago, 3 take away 4 is equivalent to -1. So I've got 2 whole ones, take away 1 over 6. Now these top 2 diagrams here are my 2 whole ones. Okay, so this is 1 whole one along the top here, and then this is a second whole one. I've got to take away 1/6. So this last square here is the 1/6 I'm going to take away, leaving me with 1 whole one and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections and 5 over 6. Now that is using the diagram. Another way of thinking about it is splitting this 2 up into 1 plus 1. Now the reason I've split it into 1 plus 1 is because I've now got 1 whole one take away the 1/6. So this is like looking at this bottom section here, 1 whole one take away 1/6. Whatever, if you had the number 5 here, you'd split it as 4 plus 1. So you'd always have this as a 1 here, and then whatever else you need to add to make this whole number here. So I've got 1 whole one take away 1/6 is the 5/6 that we've spoken about already, which is 1 whole one and 5/6, and that's the answer that needs to appear in here. Some people will find it useful to draw the diagram out in this case to work it out. It is a tricky question where you're doing this fraction where you've got to count back over the whole number. It makes it very tricky. You do need to be aware of your negative numbers. So 3 take away 4 gives you -1. So you've got 2 whole ones take away 1/6. The 2 whole ones is the same as 1 whole one plus 1 whole one. Take away 1/6 from 1 whole one is the 5/6. And you've got 1 whole one here at the beginning, 1 whole one and 5/6. You can see the answer clearly, 1 whole one and 5 out of 6. Here underneath. So if you prefer to draw a diagram out, you can use a diagram. If you prefer doing it with numbers, you can use numbers. As long as you can get the answer 1 whole 1 and 5/6, that will give you the 1 mark. So give yourself a big tick if you manage to get that answer correct. Well done. Now there is an alternative method for this question, and some people may prefer it. The difference with this method is, first of all, you need to convert your mixed number to a top-heavy fraction. So this mixed number here, if we convert it to a top-heavy fraction, it makes it easier to do the subtraction. It's personal preference as to which method you prefer to use. So if we're going to convert this to a mixed top-heavy fraction, we've got to say how many halves are there in 2 whole ones. So in 2 whole ones, you have got 1/2 in 2 parts in 1 whole one. So in 2 whole ones, you've got 4 parts, or 2 times 2 gives you 4. Then you've got the extra half to add on, which is 5. So 2.5 is equivalent to 5 over 2. So to do that without drawing a diagram, you just need to do 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 gives you 5. The denominator just remains the same. So whatever denominator you had here just remains the same. From here, we're now going to find the common denominator. So it's exactly the same. 2 times 3 gives you the 6. But now I've got to do, how many times does 2 go into 6? Is 3 times. So 5 times 3 gives me 15. So I've got 15 over 6 because my denominators are the same. If you look at the diagram down here that we had, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So there's 15 over 6. There are 15 squares in total out of the 6. Then I need to convert this to thirds. So I say how many times does 3 go into 6 is twice. So I need to do the same for the top. So 2 times 2 gives me 4. You could have alternatively done 2 times 3 gives you 6 in the denominator. 5 times 3 gives you 15. 2 times 2 gives you 4. So that's another way of working it out. So doing the hug and then the kiss. From here, we need to look at the numbers at the top. So 15 take away 4 is equivalent to 11. And the denominator stays the same. So this is 11 out of 6. So you can count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 sections out of the 6. Then we will need to convert this to a mixed fraction. So how many times does 6 fit into 11? There is 1 whole one. And then from 6 to 11 take away 6, or to get from 6 to 11, there are 5 left, which is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is 1 whole one and 5/6. and you need to write your answer in the box. So this is an alternative method to work out the answer to this, and some people will find it easier to convert this into a top-heavy fraction, then put these two over a common denominator and then subtract these values. It saves having to work out with the negative that we had earlier. It is personal preference as to which method you choose. If you wrote your answer as 11 over 6 or 1 and 5 over 6, both of these answers are correct and will give you a mark in the exam. Give yourself a big tick if you got this correct. Well done. The mark scheme on this question shows there are two correct answers, 1 and 5 over 6 or 11 over 6, which will both give you 1M, which is 1 mark. Again, it says if you use an exact decimal equivalent, 1.83 recurring, which means 1.83333333, then you will get the mark, but it's much harder to work with decimals than it is working with the fractions. It will not be allowed if you use a rounded or truncated decimal. So rounding means, look at this number, if you're rounded to one decimal place, you'd have 1.8 because the 3 doesn't round, it's smaller than 5, so it just remains the same. So this is rounds to 1.8. In this case here, rounding and truncating do exactly the same thing. So truncating means take away any digits after that first decimal point. So you've got 1.8, anything after here is just ignored, leaving you with 1.8. For GCSE, you'll need to know the difference between rounding and truncating, and you'll be able to deal with both of these values. But for your SATs, you just need to know how to round and how to work with these fractions. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on long multiplication, and you've been asked to work out the answer to 4078 times by 67. You need to write your answer in the box, and this is going to be worth 2 marks in the exam. The key facts. There are 2 methods that you can use. So the first one is the traditional column method, and this is the one that will give you the method mark in the exam if you make a mistake. So this is the recommended method to use. Or there is a method called the grid method, and I'll show you both. A lot of people prefer the grid method, but to get the marks in the exam, you need to use the column method. Press pause, have a go at using the column method or grid method to work out the answer, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Well done, guys. So, using the column method, we're going to start off with the grid that we've already got, and we start on the right hand side. So we start with the 7 times by the 8. So you should know that 7 times by 8 is 56. So the 10s comes up here as a little 5, and the 6 comes underneath. Next, we have to do 7 times 7, which is 49. Then we need to add on the 5, which is again going to take me to 54. So now I'm going to look at 7 times by 0. 7 times 0 is nothing. Add on the 5 is going to give me 5. Then I've got 7 times 4 is 28, and I write that number there. So the number 4078 times by 7 is 28,546. Now we need to look at multiplying by this 6 here. But this 6 here isn't just a 6, it's actually 60. So because I'm multiplying by 60, we know when we multiply by 10, we add a 0. So I've got to add a 0 at this point here because I'm multiplying by 60, not just multiplying by 6. So now I can put the 0 on the end. I can now multiply each of these numbers at the top just by 6. So 6 times 8 is 48. 6 times 7 is 42. Plus the 4 is 46. 6 times 0 is 0. Plus the 4 gives me a 4. 6 times 4 is 24. So that means the number 60 times 4078 is 244,680. Once we've got to these 2 lines here, I need to add them together. So we always start on the right hand side. So 6 plus 0 is 6. 4 plus 8 is 12. Then I've got 5 plus 6 plus the 1. So that's the same as 6 plus 6. So double 6 is 12. So we carry the 1 here and put the 2 underneath. Then I've got an 8 plus a 4 plus a 1. So 8 plus 4 is 12, plus 1 is 13. So I carry the 1 and put the 3 down here. Then I've got 2 plus 4 plus 1, which is going to give me 7. At the end, I've got a 2 on its own, so I just put the 2 at the front. So for 1 mark, using the method of this grid method here, of this column method, will give you 1 mark. Your answer will be 273,226, and that answer will need to go in the box here. If we were going to use the grid method, okay, we split our numbers up. So we've got the number 4,000, we've got the number 70, and we've got the number 8. So that's from looking at this number here, 4,078. Then underneath, I've got the number 60, and 7 is how I split up the 67. So once I've split these values up, I can multiply them. So I'm now going to do 6 times 4 is 24, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros, so I need to put 4 zeros after the 24. So 24 with 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. Here I've got 7 times 6 is 42, and add on the 2 zeros. So 6 sevens 42, 1 0 here, 1 0 here, add them on, so I've got 4,200. 6 times 8, okay, and then add on a 0. So 6 times 8 is 48, plus the 0 is 480. Next, I've got 7 times by 4,000, so I'm going to do 7 times 4 is 28, and add on the 1, 2, 3 zeros. So I've got 28,000. Then I've got 70 times 7. 7 times 7 is 49. Add on a 0, 490. Then 7 times 8 is 56. I'm then going to write all these values one underneath each other. So I've got all these zeros plus 6 is 6. I've got a 9 plus an 8 plus a 5. So you can think 2 8s are 16, plus 1 is 17, plus 5, so plus 3 to make it 20, add another 2, takes me to 22. You've got 4 plus 4 is 8, add on 2 is 10, add on another 2 is 12, so we carry the 1 and the 2. Got 8 plus 4, so 8 plus 2 is 10, add on the extra 2 is 12, plus 1 is 13. 4 plus 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7, and the 2 on its own here at the end. Remember to write your answer in the box, and you should include a comma after the thousands column. So 273,226. Just be careful, if your comma is too large, it might look like a 1, or too small, it might look like a decimal point. So if your comma's not very nice and clear, then you can leave the comma out. So you just write the digits 273,226, like you can see written here, to get the mark still, and that will give you the 2 marks. Give yourself a big tick if you got it correct. Remember, the method mark is for using this method here, and then the second mark is for getting the correct answer. Well done if you got it correct. The mark scheme on this question shows there are up to 2M, which means 2 marks. So 2 marks awarded for the question for getting the correct answer. And then if the answer is incorrect, then you get 1 mark for using the formal method of long multiplication with no more than 1 arithmetic error. So that means you're allowed to use this working here with 1 mistake. So you could have something that looks like either of these, 1 mistake. So this is where you're getting your mark from. So please be careful when you're doing the question to make sure you don't make a mistake when you're working out the values. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on subtracting fractions. Now, some people will be able to look at this question and work out the answer in their heads quite easily, and other people will need a method to be able to get the answer. So we've got to do 10 take away 2 and 1/4, and you've got to write your answer in this box for 1 mark. Now, to do this, there are a few steps that you can follow. So first of all, if you convert your fractions to be top-heavy fractions, it will help you to be able to subtract them. I'm going to show you 2 methods. One, I'm not going to convert them to top-heavy fractions, so you can do it without this step here. It is personal preference as to which one you prefer. Once you've done that, you need to find a common denominator. So this step is the same in both cases. Then you're going to be using equivalent fractions, and then you have got to subtract your whole numbers. Now this step here, number 4, only applicable if you haven't converted to top-heavy fractions. So it depends if you've done step 1. It's either step 1 or step 4. So if you've converted to top-heavy fractions, you don't need to do step 4. If you didn't convert to top-heavy fractions, you'll need to do step 4. Step 5 is subtract the numerator. So these are the numbers at the top of your fractions. And then your denominator will remain the same. So this is the number at the bottom of the fraction. Then you'll need to convert your answer to a mixed fraction and cancel your answer if it is relevant. Have a look at the question, press pause, have a go at working out the answer, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Well done guys, hopefully you've managed to get an answer. Well done and great work. So to start with, we're going to look at doing it by subtracting the whole numbers first. So 10 take away 2 is going to be 8. Then I'm left with this take away a quarter. So I've got 8 whole ones take away a quarter. Now 8 whole ones is the same as 7 whole ones plus 1 whole one. So 7 plus 1 is equivalent to 8. So I've got 7 whole ones plus 1 whole one take away a quarter. Now 1 whole one take away a quarter is going to be 3/4. Okay, so if you think of a cake with 4 sections in, and you eat one of the sections of the cake, you're left with 3 sections, so that's 3/4. So your answer is going to be 7 whole ones and 3/4, and that is the answer you'll need to write in the box. There is an alternative method using this step up the top, which is converting to top-heavy fractions. So if I'm going to convert these to top-heavy fractions, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write them both as a fraction over 4. Okay, so both of these fractions are over 4 because I've got a 4 here, so I'm going to write this as a fraction over 4. Now 10 is the same as 40 divided by 4. So 40 divided by 4 is equivalent to 10. 2 and 1/4. Now if I multiply 2 by 4 gives me 8, then add on the extra 1, that gives me 9, so I've got 9 over 4 is equivalent to 2 whole ones and 1/4. So I've got 40 over 4 take away 9 over 4. Once they've been written as top-heavy fractions, okay, so this was step 1, we're going to subtract the numerators. So we're going to skip straight down here to step 5. Okay, because the common denominator is already in place. So the common denominator is already here, the 4. We've used the equivalent fractions by looking at top-heavy fractions. So we're going to subtract the numerator. We've got no whole numbers to subtract, so we just go to here, step 5. So 40 take away 9 will give us the number in the numerator, and then the 4 will stay the same. So the denominator stays the same. So 40 take away 9 is 31. So 31 over 4 will be your answer. Now if you wrote either of these answers, you will be correct in the exam. But we can convert this to a mixed fraction. So how many times does 4 fit into 31? Well, we know 7 4s are 28. Add on 3, so 28, 29, 30, 31. That's 3 more. Will give you 7 whole ones and the 3/4. So it's personal preference whether you like to leave your answer as a top-heavy fraction or a mixed fraction. Either will give you the mark in the exam. It is technically better to use the mixed fractions for 7 whole ones and 3/4, but the examiner will allow either answer. The mark scheme on this question shows the answer is 7 3/4 or 31 over 4. Either of these answers will give you 1 mark, so 1M means 1 mark. It does say you're allowed to use exact decimal equivalent. So your child or you should know that 3/4 is the same as 0.75. So 7 3/4 is the same as 7.75. So you can use an exact equivalent, or you can write it as a fraction. You will not be allowed a rounded answer. Now a rounded answer means you take this 5, it's bigger than 5, so it will make this 7 become an 8, so it rounds to 7.8. Or even rounded to 8. Truncated means you just take off remaining digits, so get rid of the 5 off the end, so it's 7.7. At GCSE, you'll need to know how to truncate. At SATs level, you'll just need to know how to round. So you don't need to worry about the difference for these at SATs level. If you found this video useful, please like, share and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question using BIDMAS. Now, BIDMAS is a really important rule that you need to know and understand what these letters represent. We've got to work out the answer to 6 plus 4 divided by 2. You're going to write your answer in the box, and this is going to be worth 1 mark in the exam. So our key facts are to know what this BIDMAS stands for. So the B stands for brackets. The I stands for indices or power. Now the indices or the power, this is like squared, cube, to the power 4, to the power 5, so the little numbers that are written at the top, or it could be square root, cube root, something like that. Any of those are called indices or powers. The D stands for divide, M stands for multiply, A stands for add, and S stands for subtract. Now these letters tell you the order that you have to do your calculation in. So we start at the top, and the B stands for brackets. Now there are no brackets in this question here, so we can ignore this first step here. I stands for the indices or the powers. Again, there are no indices or powers in this question, so we can ignore this bit here. We now get to the letter D, which is for divide. So we have got a divide in this question. That means we must do the divide part of this question first. Even though it is written at the end of the calculation, we still have to do that part of the calculation first because of this rule of BIDMAS. So the divide comes first. M stands for multiply. So this means we're multiplying our values. A stands for add. So we have got to add in this sum. So once you've done your divide, you can then add your answers. And there is no S. So the only two letters which are relevant for this question are the D and the A. And the D must be done before the A. Press pause, have a go at working out the answer, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Well done guys, hopefully you've managed to come up with an answer. So remember, we're going to be looking at the D first, so the divide. So we've got to do this section of the sum first, even though it's at the end of the calculation. So 4 divided by 2 is the same as halving 4. And a half of 4 is 2, or 4 divided by 2 is 2. So that is our first part of the sum here. Then we've got to take this answer we've got here, and then we're going to add it to the 6. So we've got 6 plus this answer here, which gives me 6 plus 2, which is going to equal 8. And then we need to write our answer in this box here, and that will give us the mark for the exam. Give yourself a big tick if you got it correct. Well done. Make sure you know what BIDMAS stands for and you can apply the order. Great work everyone, well done. The mark scheme on this question shows the answer is 8. 1M means 1 method mark. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. This is a question on multiplying fractions, and in this question we've got to work out 4/5 of 400. Now you might think that this isn't multiplying fractions because we've only got one fraction, but I'm going to show you two methods, and one will be multiplying fractions and one will be working out what this fraction is of this amount here. So there's two different ways to think about doing this question. However you do it, make sure you write your answer in the box, and this will be worth 1 mark. So the key facts that you need to be able to answer this question, you need to be able to follow the following steps. So if you write the whole number as a fraction, so this case here I've got 400, I'm going to write it as a fraction. Remember, to write a whole number as a fraction we need to say it's divided by 1. So 400 divided by 1 is the same as 400. So you can divide any number by 1 and it will always be the number you started with. Then we're going to multiply the numerators together. We're then going to multiply the denominators, remembering the numerators are the numbers at the top, the denominators are the number at the bottom. You've then got to cancel your fraction. Press pause, have a go at working out the answer, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Okay, well done guys, hopefully you've managed to get an answer. So our first step is going to write it as a fraction, so you can do this onto the question, put this over 1. So now I'm going to multiply my numerators, so 4 times by 400. So 4 times by 4 is 16, add on 2 zeros is going to be 1,600. Then I've got 5 times by 1 in the denominator, which is 5. So I've got 1,600 divided by 5, or 1,600 over 5. So this is a fraction, but this fraction line here means divide. So I've got to do 1,600 divided by 5. So to do that, we're going to use the bus stop method. The number you're dividing by goes at the front of the bus stop, and the 1,600 goes underneath. So I then say, how many times does 5 fit into 1? It doesn't. So then I cross this one out and write it as a little one up here, so this number becomes 16. 5 into 16 fits 3 times. Now 3 times 5 is 15. There is 1 left over to get to the 16, so I write a 1 up here. Now it's how many times does 5 go into 10? 5 fits into 10 twice, so that's the number at the top. And then 5 into 0 is 0. So my answer is 320, and that needs to go in the box. Now the alternative method is to think about this as a division first. So you could think of this as doing 400 divided by 5 and then times the answer by 4, because this is 4/5 of the number 400. So we can work out 1/5 of 400, which is doing 400 divided by 5, and then times that answer by 4. Now without a calculator, this method is actually easier, because we've now got 400 divided by 5, which we can do much easier in our head. So if you think of the first 2 digits here, I've got the number 40, and you should know that 40 divided by 5 is 8. So 400 divided by 5 will give you 80. So then I've just got to work out 80 times by 4. Now 8 times by 4 is 32. Then I'm multiplying this by this 10, so I need to add a 0 on the end, which will give me the 320 for 1 mark. It doesn't matter which way round you think about doing the question. Give yourself a tick whichever method you used, and make sure you know how to get the answer 320. So well done. The mark scheme on this question says the answer is 320. 1M means 1 method mark, and it says do not accept the answer 1,600 divided by 5 or 1,600 over 5. You have to work out the answer to be 320. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths. If you've enjoyed this video, please don't forget to share, like and subscribe. Please follow Get Great at Maths on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook and X. What do you want to see next on Get Great at Maths? Please comment below. See you next time.